So this is a first video in the series Shaz's Library series out of a phone booth in the New York Public Library. Imagine that. We are in a phone booth in the New York Public Library. See, the door opens, the door closes. So what we're going to do, since this is a ready-made sound booth, we are going to launch our library series, our reading series, out of the sound booth. Look, I have a seat. I can sit down, but then you can only see my head. I can stand up, and then you can kind of see most of me. You see people walking behind. That's our live studio audience. We'll check how the volume sounds after I'm done with this first part. This first part, we're going to check how long the battery lasts and how long the recording goes. This is the first time trying this. Let's get into it. I'm going to read the book, then I'm going to comment on the book. Ralph Nader, To the Ramparts, came out winter of 2018. Ralph Nader, To the Ramparts. Focus, 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 camera. There we go. All right, ready. Let's go. To the Ramparts, how Bush and Obama paved the way for the Trump presidency and why it isn't too late to reverse course. By Ralph Nader, edited by Jim Feist. 7 Stories Press. New York, Oakland, London. Contents, blah, blah, blah. Opening orientation. This is good. You don't get more old school than me. I still type on an Underwood typewriter, not a computer. Moreover, I still read print newspapers and keep files of clippings from them to glance through when I'm thinking of past events. Taken aback when Trump was elected, like many who barely believe such a walking illustration of ignorance and arrogance could step into the White House, I pulled out my clippings and began paging through them. First, I looked at the campaign, how Clinton fumbled and how Trump managed to finesse every revelation of his lack of civility, truth, and common sense. Then I leafed back further to examine the primaries, noting how much the Sanders was ignored by the media and shut out by the Democratic National Committee apparatus, how the Republican field was filled with tired retreads, and how Trump managed to shift his TV persona of being a winner into the political field. But trying to fathom the unfathomable, why voters, with the key help of the Electoral College, voted for such a manifestly phony, dissembling character to sit in the Oval Office, I found I had to pull out an older volume of clippings and consider the Obama regime. Could it be that the Democrats and Obama had laid the groundwork, at least indirectly, for the triumph of reality TV over real TV? What I'll do is I'll read, and then I'll do commentary, and then I'll read, I'll do commentary. Probably going to be like 3 pages a minute. It's going to be a minute. So this book is 300 pages. 3 pages a minute, that's 900 minutes divided by blah, blah, blah. We're looking at 15 hours. You could dock that out in a week, Shaz. 15 hours, 3 hours a day. I'm going to do 2 hours today. Now I have 13 hours, and that's only about, something. That's something. Ain't that bad. Anyways, we'll do an hour today. So, what are you saying, Nader? And then I'm going to stop this. I'm going to check the volume. This will be the test one, and the following one will be the full hour. Sure. What do you think about that? So, opening orientation. He's old school. He owns an Underwood. I own an Underwood. Great. Good job. Fucking newspaper clippings. More old school. So, he's not going to be effective at gathering the larger narrative because you need technology to do that. You need better tools. But I respect him for his diligence. Hopefully, he has diligently constructed arguments. We know the DNC is full of shit. Clinton fumbled. Clinton's not a good human being. Start there. So yeah, so all of this shit. So like, I feel like I'm going to lump Nader in with Bernie Sanders, people who talk a good talk, and the research is good, except for the things that they're completely ignorant about, like Bernie Sanders and some economic stuff. But yeah, they do not set themselves up for success or anyone who follows them. Obama regime shows you he's going to dig into Obama. He's calling it a regime. Just like, it's like, he was democratically elected, though. The regime is supposed to be for the people who aren't. But and then he's going to be like, yeah, and this is interesting. This is why I dug into why my folks voted for Trump, because I understand and I love them and they're my folks. As opposed to this guy who's saying How did people vote for Trump? We'll see if he actually has his fingers on the pulse of the people. Nothing overtly something I'm going to stop and I'm going to read and I'm just going to point out where I believe the logic is completely off. Otherwise, I'm going to try to be gracious and understand when people are building arguments. We will see. We'll see if these book reports are effective or not. All right, 5 minutes. I'm going to check the quality of this and then we will start. Everything's a go. I repeat, everything's a go. Video looks good. It's good enough to start anyways. Okay, let's go. Honey, you are reading Ralph Nader to the Ramparts by 7 Stars Press. As I glanced over the clippings, I began to conceive of a project for this book. I have already spoken and written about the dismaying change in American newscasting, whereby only the most recent flashy events are covered, and worse, are explained by superficial reference to other recent events. Trump's success in his presidential run is ascribed to stupefied voters, or Hillary's lackluster performance, or the economic malaise of the working class. No digging beyond the topsoil. Okay, since I've read a little bit ahead, I can prepare my arguments a little bit, but in the future, after about page 100, I won't be ahead, and I don't think I'm going to read ahead. The fresh take probably will be better, because even right now I already knew what I was going to dig into him about from what I've read so far. As I glance over the clippings, he had a concept for this book, so reading his newspaper with his Underwood in front of him, he's thinking about, all right, I need to speak up. Good for you, Ralph Nader. Dismaying change in American newscasting, and this is for concentration of power and authority, which are going to get back to anarchist principles, open source, healthy market principles, deep ecology principles, in nature or in systems. But no digging. But right now he's claiming umbrage. He's getting mad at the superficiality of media. Okay, we'll follow you there, Nader. Folks, it's below the topsoil that the real causes lurk. It's there that the groundwater percolates, man. In this book, I'll examine some profound causes that brought us Trump. Sure, he got quite a few voters to believe his hype. But was that because they were desperate, or was it because they didn't see Hillary as representing their interests, man? And if the latter was the case, bro, was that because Hillary was an unsympathetic person who didn't project a caring, I feel your pain attitude in the manner of a husband? Or was it because she was not putting herself behind the people's agenda? And if the latter, was this a recent phenomenon, or was it presaged by an equally Mandarin, albeit better concealed viewpoint held by Obama? Is it albeit? Is it albeit? I like saying albeit because it sounds European. What is he saying here? Go beyond the topsoil. He generally, later on in the book I noticed this too, he generalizes a lot when he says, like, sure, he got quite a few voters to believe the hype. It's like, you can't simplify Trump's campaign like this. Your whole argument yourself is that they're disaffected voters who weren't being spoken to by the Democrats. And so we don't have to have that general, like, people believe the hype. No, this was all emotional shit. Trump's a very hard person to vote for. If you ask any of his supporters, there's some cute girls out there, cute girls outside the phone booth. Stay calm, Shash, stay calm. But if someone knocks on the phone booth, I'm going to tell them I'm busy. I'm busy working to save America, ladies. And I wish you best as you continue on your day. I must get back to work. So now he sent up the argument Hillary had to put herself behind the people's agenda. Yeah, but Hillary has some baggage. No, she has some baggage. And then he mentions Mandarin. Mandarin is like Mandarin candidate. That's like he drops these little bombs. It's like you can tell he really wants to fucking go off, but it's like fucking some passive-aggressive shit going on. Next paragraph. One thing that elected Trump, as everyone agrees, was the voters' sense of a total disillusionment with Washington politicians. But the faces on TV make it sound like this disillusionment is perennial as complaints about the weather. Not so. Well, kind of like so. I mean, my argument's going to be that American empires in general, the whole Enlightenment age and liberalism, all of that was empire. We just have empire with more and more sophisticated, technical... Oh shit. Something's going on outside because this is a public place and we have a large homeless problem in New York City, which is really a mental health problem, and so some mental health is happening outside real quick. But yeah, That's what it is. It's the disillusionment is a perennial problem because empire, ever since we capped Congress at 435 delegates in like 1913, yeah, the same year we passed the first income tax. Or was it 2 years afterwards? Around that same era. And then right before World War I, then World War II. We've had a century of bullshit. The 20th century has been a century of bullshit after they capped America's democratic impulse before it could even start. Fuck the internet and everything else. It's ever since we've started actually capping our democratic impulse and then concentrating power and then empowering that concentrated power with a federal income tax that could go. That's the startup money for empire right there. Beginning of the 20th century, startup money for empire. So yeah, no, Nader's not seeing the bigger picture. He's acting like 1968 was a great time. He'll bring that up a lot. He hasn't yet, I don't think. And that was the fucking year that the Democrats fucking in the streets of Chicago beat their own base for being anti-war. This shit's been rotten for a while, but that's what it is. There's a certain type of progressive on the left, or even on the right, who harken back to a good old time. So you got to get to the source, though, the heart of this fucking systemic shit. It's empire. We were the nation built on and fetishizing empire from the beginning. It's just become no longer. It's becoming suicidal, just like our global warming. Our lifestyle is becoming a little bit dangerous for everyone involved. Back to this. My reading of the past few years is that this disenchantment is neither ever present nor without cause. I disagree with you there. Sure, Trump profited big time from it, but he hardly caused it. Sure, Republicans holding their noses got in line behind Trump, but again, I don't cite them for the voters' discouragement. No, the voters' sense of abandonment rests solidly on the shoulders of the Democrats, who let them down big time. He's acting like this is the first time. This is the nature of the fucking cycle of the beast. Come on. It's like Clinton, you're going to go back to where there is no golden era. I feel like when these people they're so smart and they've been doing this all their life, and yet they stop at certain timelines. Like, we're just going to analyze how Trump was a product of Obama who continued Bush. It's like, we got to go back to the source. That's why I had to rewrite all the history. You got to actually get to the root cause of these events. The root cause of this democracy we have now is the bottlenecks on democracy imposed. Not that the Constitution would have worked in the first place, but we're making it very hard to make it work when we've capped Congress and done all that other shit to create a unitary executive. I say this because the Democrats are the ones to whom the public has historically looked for progressive change. So he's acting like the two-party system isn't just a power grab in order to keep us all happy. It's historically every single century, every single war. We've been since the Spanish-American War, which was a war of conquest. And then you had in Congress they were trying to vote whether we should keep Mexico. We decided not to because they were too racially integrated. Because the South, that would be a great conquest, and it was fucking Southern territory. But Mexico had already outlawed slavery, so they were a little bit ahead of us in the civilized fucking category, to the point that we didn't even want the whole country. We could have had the whole country, and that was argued in Congress. That was in like 1850s, right before the Civil War, 1830s. So we've had this shit since the founding of the country, pretty much. Any parties that come up were with that imperial bent, causing fucking destruction all around the world, because that's what we've glorified. The ancient Rome, ancient Greece, empires. We haven't evolved past that stage in humanity, and we are just reaping the consequences of that type of thinking. Unless Nader challenges that type of thinking. So he says, we're the one that the public has historically looked for progressive change. Come on, dude. Democrat Roosevelt, who ushered the New Deal with public works. That's as deep as he's going to go. That was a response to socialism fucking abroad, which is gaining a lot of traction in Europe, which still has a strong history of social Democrats in their political involvement. We don't, but that's because Roosevelt headed them off. But he didn't do it willingly. The alternative was a lot worse for the business fucking leadership. Public works program to help the massive unemployment, who established regulations over the banks, brokers, and other industries. How well did that work for us? It was a Democrat, Johnson, who fought for and signed major civil rights laws to counter the disenfranchisement of black people. It was the Democrats who had the people's back and at least tolerated trade unions from 1940s on. So he's starting his lesser of two evils pitch already. Is that at least tolerated trade unions? So is that the language of an idealist? At least Obama isn't Bush. At least the Democrats tolerate trade unions. Fuck that shit. We got the internet now. We got fucking technology. We're gonna create actual things that we can believe in. I'm so emotionally invested in this because I worked to try to put Nader on the ballot in California when I was younger. Because I thought, well, these are people who are saying the truth, as close to the truth as we're hearing out there. But then when you dig deeper and you live a little bit of life, you're like, these guys aren't even trying to fucking win. They're just trying to come in second. Not even second. They're trying to keep whatever fucking thing that they have going on. It's an identity. Whatever they do, this is what they do, but they're not trying to change anything. Or either that or fucking I don't know. How can I hold it against someone if fucking Ralph Nader's current form is his highest form, then that's rude of me to hold that against him. Thank you for what you have to offer us, but this isn't going to change the world. But this has given us good insight, and it's foundational research we can build upon. Most of the stuff he says in here, we could reference and research, and then just some of his logic, which keeps him contained within his ideological cage, we're just going to ignore. Step to the side of that shit. Historically, the Republicans were the hard-bidden apostles of the so-called free market and the handmaidens of wealth. It's like, come on, is this fucking subtext for Marxism? What do you believe in here? Do you believe in markets? Do you believe in... Because as far as I can tell, from actually functioning within the economy and then reading a lot about it, markets work and human societies operate by markets. So whether those are captured, like an oligarchy by the few... The markets in America don't work, but it's because they're captured and they're corrupted. But market dynamics do work to distribute goods and services in the economy. That's like almost like natural sciences. Like fucking, anyways. So-called free markets, handmaidens of wealth. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I don't know. Republicans are captured, but so are the Democrats. It's when we get into this, like, Democrats are more fucking or less dirty. The poor women and men pinned few hopes on the Republicans. I hate that fucking emotional shit. It was the Democrats to whom the voting public turned when hankering for fairness, compassion, progressive change. Why? Historically, since we voted for them as lesser two evils, why does that mean that we should keep doing it? And when the Democratic Party fell away from pushing hard for reform, the public fell hard. You know what fucked us up is Obama had such a slick marketing campaign. A lot of people gave him the benefit of the doubt. A lot of people plugged back into the politics. And that's what really fucked us up. And Ralph Nader kind of says that. But he's asking us to buy back into the bullshit. I'm the only person saying that I've heard saying what we should actually do is create our own party. Fuck this shit. Create a direct line to the fucking public, open source party, along with the ethics of the internet, which is open source. Fucking it's going to be a disruptor. Disrupt this shit. It fell into disillusionment with politicians, and this generalized into such a despair that they were willing to elect as president, reassuring charlatan wrapped in an American flag. Nah, it might be my theory is that political discourse has become more and more emotionally triggering, and so people are actually just thinking less logically. The people who vote for Trump are logically voting for him with whatever logical faculties they have left. But look at this fucking security guard over here looking at me. Okay, I'm in a motherfucking phone booth and I'm using my motherfucking phone. How am I wrong? How am I dirty? Why the fuck are these things here? He kind of looked at me. It's like smoking crack in there. Motherfucking authority trying to crack down on Shaz the anarchist. Don't you know? I don't work. Anyways, where are we at? Yeah, he's dismissive of, like, I don't think that it's just not what he says it is. People weren't rejecting I mean, they were in a way, but people also are just voting more on emotional lines. Well, and then the people who aren't willing to become emotionally triggered like that, we just sit it out. But he has part of the puzzle. The book will show how Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder, and other Democratic leaders in the Obama years turned a deaf ear to many of the cries of the people. This was shown most graphically in that in his 8 years as president, Obama jetted around nearly 500 times to fat cap political fundraisers, where he could glad hand the wealthy, but paid nary a visit to the grassroots to spend learning and galvanizing time with ordinary people on their national civic groups nearby in Washington, D.C. Well, I don't believe Barack Obama is a good person. I thought of a fucking nickname in my head earlier. But anyways, we're going to try to be civil as long as we can hold out trying to be civil. But yeah, he's not a good person, so this whole like, well, it's surprising that Obama did this, surprising. Well, it's not as surprising to me. That's why I fucking... Barack Obama said when he was first coming up to Ralph Nader was trying to influence him about Ralph Nader's work over the years, which, like Chomsky, whether you agree with their approach or not, they gather a lot of information in one place, which is nice for reference. But he came away from their meeting saying, Ralph Nader thinks a great deal about Ralph Nader. It's like one egomaniac to another. That's interesting. But here's what I'm not saying. I'm not equating Democratic Party policies with those of the Republicans. Yeah, it's too far for you, Nader. We have to make a distinction here. Why? Which will be outlined in this book. Take the areas which there is continuity between previous Democratic regime and the new Trump administration, such as foreign policy and the Democrats' unwillingness to nail or punish corporate criminals. Set that against where there is a clear difference between parties, as in the Democrats' signing of the Paris Climate Accord and Trump's repudiation of them, or the two administrations' views of civil rights, where Democrats pushing to extend their protection and Trump rolling back. Well, it's weird because the civil rights thing, let's sit down for a little bit. Civil rights thing might be a little bit of victim whoring, where it seems like both political parties, especially in their foreign engagements, find a victim group in order to justify their aggression or their power grabs. Or it might just be buying votes. I feel like a lot of I'm currently in the shelter system and the fucking food stamp system. I feel like some of that is buying votes and poor populations, because it's not really doing them any good if you look generationally over time. It's keeping people alive, which is not bad, but I'm within the system and there's not much compassion or direction. Oh, we'll see. I'm still exploring the system, but I see a lot of lost people in here with me. So yeah, no, I'm not with you there. They're both fucking... We have to throw out both. The Democrats aren't going to save us from running out of time. The world is literally on a suicide watch. So no, fucking, it's done. They had their time to fucking try to be decent. Just one is more stupid than the other. Yeah, I'm not saying all Republicans are stupid, but one of them accepts climate change stuff and one of them doesn't accept scientific knowledge. So, but that's just because the Republicans have relied on... I'm so fucking... Here we go. I'm going to put this down right here. Oh, yeah. No, that's because the Republicans have relied on a lot of the Christian stuff. All right, I'll just hold it for a minute. Here we go. Where are we at? Even with their espousal of environmental and consumer protection, civil rights, Social Security, and elderly Medicare, the Democrats hardly went vigorously on in favor of these progressive values when they were in power. Yeah, because they're not a real political party. It's all mafia type shit. They're just power structures intent on keeping us out of political power. It has to be Democrats, Republicans instead of independents. They take over the airwaves. They take over the whole fucking conversation. So, Obama's failure to raise the frozen 7.25 per hour minimum wage is just more egregious examples. To put this more graphically, I would say that if I were grading the parties on their ability to deliver on laws that would change the lives on the vast populace for the better, I would flunk both of them. The Democrats would get a D+, and the Republicans an F. Neither could be proud of the record. Yeah, but you want us to join the flunking team then? Come on. All of this is begging for a third party, and yet you fucking won't admit it, because you might just be a fucking coward, Nader. Yeah, I gotta call it as it is. These dudes will toe the line of actual change and reform, but they won't cross it. I don't know why. He's smart enough to see it, right? Shaz, simple little Shaz over here on the sidelines. I reread the same books. Let me say it plainly. For success, policy must precede message. You can't win with vote for me. You can only win with... Who the fuck are you to tell me how to win an election, first of all, Ralph Nader? Here are my policies and my records. Vote for me. Come up with authentically backed policies that improve the lives of people, and the public will vote you into power. A lesson seemingly lost to most current Democrats, including their lax leaders. They, policy must... Oh, he's saying, like... What do you mean? Obama won with just fucking talking instead of actual policy. That's the thing, is you need good copy and you need good policy. Nader's like... I don't understand. Nader's using Trump in order to castigate the Democrats by telling them how to win elections when Nader hasn't won anything of note his whole life. Nader has good research, and we share values, I'm pretty sure. All the way up to the point where he's willing to call these systemic powers for what they are. He's not willing to look at the bigger picture too. But on the smaller stuff, when we actually look at the historic record, a lot of the stuff they say in here about what Obama did and how that laid the groundwork for Trump, that makes sense. But yeah, this is good. So this is capturing that, even though it's going longer than I thought it would, but that's okay. To be in the parlous state we are in, with a predatory, cunning, unstable ignoramus in the White House, there must be deep-rooted causes, not just topsoil ones. The 2 points I will stress are that, as mentioned, but deep-rooted as in how long? He says deep-rooted, but how far are you willing to go back? Because it might be deep-rooted from the founding of our country. But when you come in later on with this founding father bullshit, you're basically saying that I'm not going to question my father. The patriarchy, the mythology which underpins this country. Come on. Did we get it right in the beginning? Do people have a right to govern themselves? And if so, then the current people of the United States have a right to fucking come up with our own rules by which we're going to live. Fucking founding father bullshit. We're not fucking beholden to live by any rules other than the ones we figure out for ourselves. So we should question everything, hold everything up to scrutiny. It's hard to do that with this type of language. Paternalism. So anyways, that would be going below the topsoil. Like a motherfucking Nader over here. The 2 points I will stress are that, as mentioned, the Democrats failed to fully push for a people's agenda, and also, so the Democrats were full of shit. Good job. That's 1 point. And also, great importance, Obama and the Democratic Party failed to keep the party itself up to fighting strength. So Obama was bitch made. Democrats full of shit. Barack Obama bitch made Obama. I didn't want to use the nickname, and it fucking came out. So it lacked the grassroots organizing and brain trust needed to resist the Republican onslaught. Let's look at, so basically bullshit people got beat by better bullshitters. Oh. That's what you get for being a little bitch, I guess. Let's look at how this happened step by step over the years, but not as a historical exercise. Not at all. My hope is that by writing this book, I will open Democrats and other progressives' eyes to the many values shared by left and right. Values like the desire to end corporate welfare and convert to a renewable energy solar economy. I will show that the way to defeat Trump going forward is to embrace, not marginalize, issues such as raising minimum wage. These are real-life policies that win big in elections and the voters' hearts. Democrats, as well as some third-party candidates, have to get behind these policies. It's a question of do or just further fade away. Blackness. Come on, Nader, come on. Some intellectual honesty. Where are you trying to do this? This is your thesis. Let's look at your stated proposals. Your hope is that by writing this book, you'll open Democrats and other progressives' eyes to the many values shared by the left and right. Okay, so your first goal is to left progressive. So these terms, progressive and Democrats, you're speaking to them, this group of people you've categorized now. I don't even know if I lump myself in that category. You want them to see the shared values by the left and the right. So these people supposedly are the left, and then so it's just more categorization. And that's where you got this To the Ramparts titles from the French Revolution, where they would sit in the house, and the people on the left representing the people, and the people on the right representing the lords, or whatever the fuck that history is. Is it relevant to nowadays? I don't know. If we keep using it, then does that mean that the same power structures are still in play? Are there the same dynastic families and ambitions and fucking classes and when was that? After the Industrial Revolution, you had a king, and then you had courtesans, you had the fucking royals, and you had the banks, and then you had the Industrial Revolution, you had the merchant class becoming very strong too, just like we have the tech. The tech people have joined the industrial types, the fucking people who control the economy, right? So you had all those factors going on. So was that all the same con even back then? It was just changing from like hiding the power further and further away. We have these democracies that don't seem to work, really just wage imperial wars. Look at these people are looking. Some more cute girls outside the phone booth. Come on, Shaz, let's wrap it up. What were we fucking... So he was saying he wants to open up the Democrats' progressives to how they share similarities with the right. Values like corporate welfare and renewable energy. So he's really doing the corporate, anti-corporate stance. But in order to do that, it's like, I don't know if I trust Nader's understanding of economics or markets. I feel like it might be some sloppy generalizations like what you get from Sanders, which is why I went into the workforce, because I do respect markets and brokering, but at the same time, how much of it is necessary. Basically, that's why anarchism is great. You want the least amount of authority, and the most natural self-governing system. But you also want to protect the commons and society itself, the concept of society. Between those two, you'll find the right answer, but it won't happen in ideology, capitalism, or it's like growing a garden. As least interference as possible, because it's a labor-saving technique, an energy-saving technique. Depends on what your values are, though. Are we actually trying to create a world which has the least amount of authority possible for the most amount of liberty? No, that would be having a discussion about values, about liberty and fucking freedom. But instead, we have discussions about labor and fucking capital and other shit. We get caught up with that. And both of those, whether communist or capitalists, march themselves towards an authoritarian state because of their ideology. Whereas if you're talking about freedom, anarchism versus authority, you're going to devolve authority as much as you can to have everything as self-governing as possible, which is just common sense. When you raise children, you raise them to be self-sufficient. The best authority devolves itself. A doctor heals you. He doesn't keep you beholden to the doctor. This is all common sense. Now the world makes sense. There's a lot of confusion in the mind of Ralph Nader and other people like him, but he did good research. He's a good nerd. We're going to steal some of his research, steal some of his quotes, some of his data. We are not going to be a follower like him because he's ineffective. Hasn't done shit except talk, but it's okay. We still love you.
Hello, my name is Serge, and I'm going to read a book today. Today, the book is entitled To the Ramparts by Ralph Nader.
I think we're going to do half-hour videos, and yeah, we'll do that. So, his hope was to unite. His hope was to show the Democrats the values shared by both the left and the right, and then show the way to defeat Trump. Anyways, so, part one. How many pages was that? I did that in like 25 minutes. That was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. That's like 5 minutes a page. That's not that bad. 5 minutes a page times 300 is 1,500. 1,500 divided by... Anyways, it's a lot of hours, but we'll figure it out. All right. The Democrats squander their Obama victory. Let's look back at how the Democrats failed year after year to deliver the goods to the people. Without forgetting that the Democrats are superior to the Republicans in some key policy areas, here I will highlight their repeated fumbling of the ball on significant issues. Surrounding the deepening corporate state, for example, they largely let Credit Suisse off the hook for its willful law-breaking, which defrauded the IRS. I will describe policies in which the Democrats' activities and corporate funding were largely in line with the Republicans, such as Obama's willingness to ignore the Constitution and federal laws when it came to conducting armed forays into other countries. So these are the ones who we should say at least tolerate the labor unions. Without forgetting that Democrats are superior than Republicans in some key policy areas. That's what we can't let that go, or else we'd have to be forced to actually create an alternative. He wants us to keep us in the Democratic pen as much as possible, while at the same time sell a book by pointing out, like, because his brand is supposed to be actual truth. Nader couldn't, from what I can tell, he points out real history. He just doesn't contextualize it in a way that we can actually affect real change. The deepening corporate state. When did that start, though, Nader? We're going to have to talk about corporate personhood, which is very closely tied with all of our foreign policy decisions. You need American corporate apparatus before we conduct foreign imperial wars of aggression to let those corporations now overrun the rest of the world, like the Dutch East India Company and all the fucking toxic corporate empires of the past. It's the same fucking pattern. No one reinvents the wheel. Let's begin with an overview in which I look back at the first sobering setback the Democrats faced after Obama's triumph in 2008. By the 2010 elections, the first held after Obama became president, the Republicans were already turning the tide. there were large election losses in 2010 following a Republican gerrymandering coup, and the loss of the House of Representatives to John Boehner and Eric Cantor. Well, yeah, because Obama ran on an I think all the politicians who've won presidency since George Bush was president. Well, I guess we re-elected him in 2004, but they've all been referendums on the war, anti-war, this and that. 2004, I guess, was close enough to 9/11. People were still scared and they could push that fear button, but Obama was definitely an anti-war president. There are these huge anti-war demonstrations. We've been trying to stop this imperial machine, the American empire, and we haven't been able to. So that's why we have to go bigger. We have to actually start reinventing these systems. We have to bypass them. You can't. Bernie Sanders proved that. You can't do it through the Democratic Party. This is intellectually disingenuous for Nader to try to keep us within that pen. And that's also why the Republicans you don't have a coherent argument, Nader, if you try to maintain that Democrats are inherently better than Republicans when our whole argument is against them, because at one point we have to start condemning them as a system and a structure, not just mistakes. How can you get the same thing when I read Rand Paul and these other guys on the right? They'll list time and time again about how the Republican Party is too authoritarian and it's too corrupt. And then they'll say, but we got to stay in it because you can't take those values and put them within a good system. But then also, this could hardly all be blamed on Obama's lackluster campaign support for Democratic candidates. The real culprit was that the two parties were vigorously dialing for the same commercial dollars to finance their campaigns. The resultant inhibitions and self-censorships brought the parties' real agendas closer together. Yeah. Well, this goes back to my idea that we capped Congress at 435, which now, instead of one congressman representing 30,000 people, they represent 750,000 people, something like that, 700,000 people. But it's a factor of like 25. So the strangling and enfeebling of our democracy has happened ever since we did that capping of Congress, which happened right after we ran out of domestic territory and we started fighting our imperial wars of aggression beyond Spanish-American War. See, all of history, that's why he said at the very beginning, this isn't going to be a historical book. Yeah, because then you would get real context. He wants to create the argument as close to the truth as possible. The dance is to get as close to the truth as possible without pushing people outside the Democratic Party. And that seems to be the Ralph Nader brand. And that's where his logic is going to fail him. Where are we at? I can't talk too much. It seems as though the only way for Democrats to win would have been to fundamentally separate themselves from Republicans by shifting their sights from big donors to the less well-off general public. Directions that would have saved them then might be prescribed right now as an agenda to battle back against Trump. These are 8 initiatives that would allow Democrats to landslide the Republicans in any election. First of all, Nader, again, no offense, but why should we trust your judgment when it comes to elections? And second of all, there's some wisdom. There's some wisdom to business knowledge. There's some wisdom to the rich. There's a lot of rich people who don't believe in such inequality that they benefit from. One of them being what's his name? Warren Buffett. And I don't even think the man is a good man, but he's not necessarily attached to the inequality that he benefits from. So that's the trouble about creating a voting bloc of just disenfranchised, is it's the same thing that suffers creating a voting bloc of just the winners of society, just all the diehard Republican capitalists. You're losing out on wisdom, and what works in society is what works, wisdom, just iterations of what makes the system more peaceful and more efficient, and that takes everyone's input. So we need better systems, more open systems where everyone can input. We can take the business wisdom on the right, but then we can also have the social protections on the left, because if we don't have that, we have increased crime and we have increased costs in society. Everything's just about efficiency, and that's where we get to authority. The more efficient system requires less authority, and that proves that an anarchist reading of history and of politics might be able to devolve the authoritarian path that we're on for socialistic and capitalistic left and right reasons. That's why this talking helps out. See, those types of ideas are good. Those are worth getting. In 2010, none of these initiatives which many who speak for the public were advocating, were embraced by the Democrats. To begin immediately on my central theme, it was the failure to pick up on populist measures that led to a defamed Democratic Party being run over by Trump's pseudo-populist rhetoric. Here's what I think should be the central platforms of a recharged Democratic Party, apart from facilitative electoral reforms discussed later. Okay, so a recharged Democratic Party. So Nader apparently doesn't have the courage or the aptitude to create his own party. He wants to take the Democratic Party and recharge it by giving it real populist roots. But the problem with that is he also acknowledged that there's commercial dollars to finance their campaigns. Democratic candidates are beholden to this party apparatus, which I pointed out. He didn't point out that. They're representing a lot more people with a lot less resources. And so they're outgunned, and that's why they have to. But he pointed out, well, they do rely on corporate money. So by giving them a new platform, it's not like they don't have the right values, supposedly. You can't. His argument is funny. Democrats have historically been the party of the values of the lower class people. And for some reason, Nader has to remind him of that. When we also acknowledge that the whole reason why we're picking them over the Republicans is they share our values, and it's just the system that keeps them trapped on this fundraising schemes. And then he says electoral reform. He's going to get to that later. So that said, which is showing me this is going to be a bunch of bullshit, but we're going to listen to it anyways. He might state some good points eloquently. First, resurrect the old Democratic Party's historic role in safeguarding the federal minimum wage and labor laws from Republican dissolution. It's astonishing that since the passing of Senator Ted Kennedy, there have been so few lawmakers campaigning to raise the minimum wage or even restore it to its previous levels. If the minimum wage of 50 years ago, $1.60 per hour, were adjusted for inflation, today would amount for about $11 an hour. A long overdue minimum wage hike would pour tens of billions of dollars into job-producing consumer demand during the recession. It would end a decades-long windfall for employers who have been increasing prices and their own salaries while receiving many tax breaks and subsidies. To objections from the curled-lipped House Republican Eric Cantor before his primary defeat in 2014, I would say, you don't believe workers in your district should make as much as workers made 50 years ago when productivity was half what it is today, Eric? Half of that? Oh, is that why he's using 1968? Because it's 50 years ago, literally 50 years ago. That's interesting. Oh. Yeah, but that's the whole point. The old Democratic's historic role. If you're talking about old Democratic history, we got to talk about Chicago 1968. Because in my reading of history, where you have authority and power structures, that was a clear demonstration of what the Democratic Party is all about, is authority and power structure. And we violated that authority for as humanitarian reason as you can get, trying to end the Vietnam War, which was as unjust a war as you can get. But because the Democratic Party happened to be the party who proposed a federal, so he's given us a scrap, basically. This isn't going to do anything for us. And Ted Kennedy kind of has a history of being a piece of shit. So that's like 2 strikes, which only if you believed in the religion of being a Democrat would you fucking... This is like, it's the same rationale the Catholic Church tries to get you to excuse these priests, or excuse the church. I'm sorry we had a lot of priests being pedophiles, but we're the Catholic Church, you know. We're kind of like, it's like we're family. It's like, yeah, that's your uncle, but it's family. We don't got to put him in jail for what he did. Depends on what he did. It depends on what the Democrats did. 1968, Democratic convention beating people in the streets for merely protesting war. The party should have been dead right then and there. Just like the Republican Party. If it's not dead after Trump, then I don't know. It's not even defensive. These things are dead. No one has to spend any more effort. Now that we have access to knowledge and information, these things will die under the weight of their own cynicism and hypocrisy. Because it's exhausting to defend them. It's exhausting for me to even point it out. This whole book is exhausting. We'll see. So anyways, fucking minimum wage. That's the reason why we should stick with the Democrats. Announce the filing of legislation that declares immediate drafting of all able-bodied and age-qualified children and grandchildren of all members of Congress anytime branch. This is just silly. This is like fucking Trump saying, like, every legislation that we bring up, we have to get rid of too. This isn't logical. Let's just live in a fucking country where we wage wars only of defense and only of national importance to the point that we would all willingly go. But to do this, it just doesn't sound like it's going to happen. It doesn't get to the root of the issue, too. Besides forcing Congress, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. It's just this is grandstanding. Besides forcing Congress to pay attention to its constitutional war declaring and funding responsibilities, this legislation would hold our humble public servants accountable by making them share the risk presently foisted on a few million, mostly low-income families. It's true. And we were low-income when I joined the military too, but there's congressmen whose children serve. There's exceptions to this rule that you're talking about. Third, cut the huge, bloated, wasteful military budget. Really end the endless boomerang wars with astute diplomacy and channel the expected savings into repairing and renovating America through a national public works program with good-paying, non-exportable jobs. Doable, but you have to actually address what we're talking about. We're talking about an American empire with hundreds of bases around the world. Fucking, what did he say we were going to do it with? Astute diplomacy. We're going to end it. Has any empire in the history of the world ended through astute diplomacy? No, we're going to actually have to restructure the framework of our society to the point that it's going to be fucking borderline civil war. What if we can't contain these militaristic factions? What if we can't fucking subvert the police state and the secret paramilitary police, all the three-letter agencies we have? What if we can't subvert them to democratic rule? What if they think that the American empire can continue? Can we contain a rogue CIA, rogue FBI, rogue fucking NSA? Are they already rogue? How many people are in the executive branch of government? How many fucking tens of thousands? So like 18,000, 20,000 people, all beholden to one person, the president. And the fucking intelligence agencies. Who's in charge? The State Department? The president? The intelligence agencies? Is there such thing as a deep state? How many people are working? How many interests are there? Astute diplomacy. No, I think the survival of the world depends on unwinding the American empire, but it's going to be a complicated fucking bitch of a move. And it's risky even to bring up this conversation. He's laughable. It's like these people that you look at all your life, like you trusted they were on top of the situation. Then when you look into it, you're like, you've just fucking been avoiding the hard questions your whole life, haven't you? So we have minimum wage, draft Congress, and fucking astute diplomacy. Fourth, among other popular tax reforms, shift much of the tax burden onto activities that Americans do not like, such as pollution, huge Wall Street speculation, corporate crime waves, and profits from systemic product waste. Even ExxonMobil supports the idea of a carbon tax, which would help the environment. The motto, tax what you burn before you tax what you earn. That's kind of like the same logic as like voting for Democrats, right? Like the lesser of two evils. Even ExxonMobil, isn't that reason to question it? If you tell me ExxonMobil supports something and they consistently are just asshole fucking corporate members of society, then let's see how they benefit from a carbon tax. Let's make sure that we're not setting up a system by which the perpetrators are going to benefit. I haven't really looked into it. I heard pro and con. We'd have to look into it. Fucking from the logic that Nader uses so far, I don't just trust him. Even ExxonMobil. You can't demonize and vilify a whole group of people and then use one of them to prove your examples without raising a question on my mind. Logical coherence, Nader, please. Fifth, announce a national energy conversion campaign based on efficiency and renewables. The only true energy independence comes from the sun in its many manifestations. Shifting America's energy policy will create more local employment and small business down to the community neighborhood level. Goodbye to the planet-destroying toxic fossil fuel and fearful atomic energy cartels. That's the thing, is these things are complicated topics and you need to speak it. Like I'm speaking kind of passionately, emotionally in these videos, but Nader, what's the alternative is slow down and speak with dispassion, write with dispassion too. He writes with passion for being someone who's so vested so long in this. Fearful atomic energy cartels. They're just not sustainable. From what I can tell about atomic energy, it's not supported by the private market without government guarantees because the risks are too great. And that shows you right then and there. We haven't figured out how to deal with the toxic waste to the point, from what I can tell, and I might be wrong, I'm open to it because it's an interesting idea. But if you really believe in markets and logic, and that's where anarchism and putting things on a spectrum between authority and fucking open systems, and perhaps everything is a case-by-case basis. Some things require a lot more authority to enforce, maybe protection of the commons, which requires some authority, or else that's the fucking, the tragedy of the commons, is we have to enforce protecting society somehow. But the more authority we use, the more inefficient it becomes, is the given theory. So that's what it is. It's just fucking, it might take too much energy for atomic energy. But anyways, he's not speaking to us that. His logic requires a lot of calling to American mythology, political mythology, when he uses the founding fathers and hearkening back to an age in which Democrats were good. It's slippery. It amazes me that someone who could be in politics this long, when you actually analyze what they're saying, it relies on such bullshit. Anyways, so what do you say? Energy independence is good, so that's a good one. 6, crack down on corporate and governmental violations of our Constitution and laws. No more no-fault government and no more no-fault big business. If the law is to be observed in the streets, then it must be observed in the suites. Clever, Ralph Nader. People are being pushed around, disrespected, defrauded, injured, and given the runaround by arrogant corporate bureaucrats using nameless, robotic, and tyrannical fine print contract barricades. There have to be accountabilities that the abused citizens can invoke, in addition to directives through tort law civil actions. So this is his bread and butter. Ralph Nader was a consumer advocate first and foremost. So this is the stuff I would take him on, take his word at, because this is good. And that's what it is too. A lot of ego when you're younger, and as I get older, and as I go on this path, trying to learn to take the good, leave the bad. The reason why I vocalize the emotions is because I do believe that emotions have an intelligence to them. You have to unpack it though. So some of it's projection, but some of it is a defense mechanism where your mind is protecting you from bullshit, which rationally you can't catch up with, but your emotions are like, no, bullshit. And so I let it ride because there's some good thoughts at the end of a rant, but you have to acknowledge it for what it is. It's a rant. And at one point, maybe the notes on this is I would like to write dispassionately and put bullet list of what I actually believe in and take out all the emotional shit. But, so yeah, no, number 6 is good. No more no fault government. Well, it depends on how big you want to grow the government. So that's what the efficiency and the anarchist ideas is that we want protection by arrogant corporate bureaucrats, and we want accountability for the abused citizens. But we don't want to create such tort reform to the sense that that's what it is you got to inspect both sides. Being in insurance kind of showed me that too. Because there's bullshit when they say, oh, people are suing these fucking fraudulent lawsuits. We need tort reform in order to stop these lawyers from filing all these frivolous lawsuits. But if you look into them, some of them aren't frivolous. Some of them are real damages that are just being, like that lady they say who spilled fucking McDonald's coffee on her lap, and she burned herself. She actually needed to get skin grafts or something. She was an old lady and she burned herself pretty bad, and the money she got from McDonald's was barely enough to cover everything. But if you look on the news, the lady spills herself with hot coffee, sues McDonald's. It looks bad. So, but that just comes with problem solving, emotional stability. Take the information in, try not to make a judgment until you at least have multiple sides to it in order to establish some reference points. But I'm with you there. Tort reform sounds good. 7th is a proposal to establish a public national complaint handling system using the internet to help consumers, taxpayers, and workers for a change. I like this idea too. New York started the 311 system under Bloomberg. It's like, that's why you can't demonize these guys. Bloomberg's a piece of shit. Meant in the way that's not demonizing at all. I just don't like him as a human being. He helped coordinate with the fusion centers and other mayors in other cities and the federal government under Obama the crackdown in Occupy Wall Street. So he was the guy who told the NYPD to kick my ass. So I don't like him because as a human being, I suffered harm at his hands. And so, but that's just a personal man to man. I don't like him. He's a piece of shit human being. As far as being an effective businessman, The 311 in New York was really effective at having a number that everyone could call in order to get city services. And then the 311 app now too. Some of the other stuff. People aren't 100% bullshit. But in certain ways that fucking Michael Bloomberg acts and conducts himself as a man, I have no respect for. But that's just between me and the dude. You got a beef with your incommunicado insurance company, bank, energy company, pension fund, cable company, hospital, telephone, gas, water, electricity, or some government agency you can't even get through to file your complaint, then referred to the national system. Think of the reductions in dread and anxiety levels for millions of families. But see, the best parts of Nader, the worst parts of him, I protect myself from through my anti-authoritarian stance, which also fucking is sensitive to the democratic bullshit. The best parts of Nader, the parts that I actually want to keep, which are the last two so far, tort reform and this national hotline for complaints, would coincide with an open source fucking party. Is we're trying to get as much information into the system as possible and then sort it in an appropriate way. So that's when you know you have the truth. The greater reality set is when you incorporate the best of your opposition's arguments while not admitting any of their faults and logic. I think that's where I have Nader. And that's how we're going to try to read this. Incorporate the good within our larger framework, our values. And he doesn't really have any values, really. He just preaches loyalty to authority. In this case, the Democratic Party as the authority. And his only justification so far has been because historically they've been the lesser of two evils. While he leaves out a lot of history. Come on, Ralph, come on. Who do you think I am? Seventh is a proposal to, I already did this, complaint system. Eighth, creates a democracy movement based on simple facilities for people who choose to band together in various roles. In return for what you, taxpayers and consumers, have had to spend to bail out and otherwise pay these large companies, the Democratic Party should press for inserts in their billing systems and those of corporate carriers, inviting you to voluntarily join and contribute dues to a nonprofit of your choosing, staffed with full-time champions who are directly accountable to you. No results, then no dues next time, and no taxpayer subsidies. These facilities would shift some institutional power from the haves to the have-nots. This idea is working in Illinois for residential utility consumers through the nonprofit group Citizens Utility Board. So that's an interesting idea. Again, that would be something that I would take in my open source political party. Because you're matriculating information from the ground up at the most grassroots way possible. What I would be wary about putting a guy like Nader in charge of the execution planning on something like this is his authoritarian bent. Even though he runs as an independent, this and that, already his desire to corral us into the Democratic Party and to support the lesser of two evils tells me that he's a little ignorant, just like when Bernie Sanders talks about free education for all. You're not going to question the whole higher education apparatus, though. There's something really rotten with that whole education market, from the way that the government guarantees all the loans, allowing them to have crazy inflationary prices because there's no checks, because it's not an open market with supply and demand, because the government has its fingers on the scale, to the way that we have these ivory towers that don't talk with each other, and the paper system for the research. You're promoted through writing bullshit papers, which now even algorithms can write. No one reads all the papers. All the information is getting lost in these information silos. But so guaranteed tuition for all that's like putting sugar on a fucking anthill. You have ants in the first place. That's what we have. We need politicians and leaders of the mold I'm trying to become, who address structural change and systemic problems, because we have better, like this tool right here, we have better tools for conversation in which we can actually have deeper discussions and dialogue. You can pull up these videos whenever you want. So there's no excuse now to not start having these deeper discussions and dialogue. It's kind of ironic that homeless Shaz is the first to start. But so I like this idea, Citizens Utility Board. I distrust you as the type of person to run it unless you prove to me that you subscribe to open source anarchistic ethics, which would oppose any type of authoritarian inertia inherent in any bureaucracy. Every bureaucracy eventually starts seeking power for itself. A lot of the things you propose, Nader, would be solved through an anarchistic open source ethic, which you're afraid to go off the reservation, though, aren't you? And then I find later on, too, he also subscribes to more decentralized authority, less authority. It's like, why don't you come out and... He flirts with anarchy a lot. He almost wants to come out of the closet. Nader is like, I'm not going to be crude or crass. Come on, Shaz. I bring up these proposals to open the book because, as we'll see, it was Obama's and the Democrats' failure to push forward such proposals, empowering the general populace and giving them more of a voice in their own government, that contributed to many voters' indifference to this party's later attempts to get out the anti-Trump votes. Yeah, it was, but it goes deeper, Ralph Nader. It goes deeper. This was just a straw that broke the camel's back, but it's really interesting looking at politics in America. This is the deception that I've been through, being born in 1982, turning 18 in 2000. So my first president was Bush. I never vote. I'm not that stupid. So I saw Bush coming a mile away. He's a fucking dumbass. I saw Obama coming a mile away because by 2008 I'd been in the military. I'd studied some in college, and that was bullshit. And then I read on my own, and I contextualized history on my own, but it took a lot of effort to do it. And, yeah. I think we're going to end this video. We're going to pick up on the next one, chapter 1. But, this is good. I'm starting to see where I differ from his opinion through this off the top of the head speaking. Hopefully we can tolerate more videos. It's helpful, at least for me. And if you could reach one person. It is a show. Alright, we're going to do one more video. We'll try to do 2 or 3 videos a day. And we'll knock this out in a week. And we'll just try to do a book a week. Why not? Maybe we got some people outside. I don't know what they think. Do they think I'm working? Maybe they think I'm famous. They're like, this guy's in this phone booth making these videos. He must be famous. In my own head. Alright, we're going to do chapter 1. How many pages was that? The last half-hour video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. Doing about 5-6 minutes of video. Oh, whatever. I'm going to try to do a video every chapter. So this chapter is 19 to 32. So that's like 13 pages. So I'm going to have to do 4 minutes a page with this one. A little bit faster. We got this. Ready? Upgrading minimum wage of minimal interest to the Democratic Party. Foremost among those demands is that the Democrats get on the stick about boosting the minimum wage. A telling story will make clear both my advocacy for this long overdue initiative and the sad ripple effect the Democrats' inaction has had. So, he makes a big deal about the minimum wage, which is cool and all, but I feel like there's other stuff we could be talking about, but I guess it's your values and justification. He says how many people and how much money and how many bodies we can save, and he compares it to war and this and that. But there's structural reasons why. Anyways, I think they just realized I'm recording. With 2 colleagues, I was meeting with Richard Trumka, head of the AFL-CIO, in his office, which is within sight of the White House. This must have been around 2012, after some years under Obama's presidency. My remarks went something on this order. I know you say great things about raising the minimum wage on your website and in the literature you hand out, but can't you see that's not enough? Why doesn't your federation take major actions on this? You could devote money and put a lot of muscle into this campaign. Of course, this would especially benefit non-union workers, but you claim your organization represents all workers. Moreover, as you know, lifting the minimum wage does help all workers, even those who are not directly affected. So this is Nader putting pressure on the head of AFL-CIO to push union muscle to promote a minimum wage. So I'm with you so far, Nader. Trumka's reply was candid, if devastating. He moved a little in his chair, making a gesture towards the White House. Why should I flail away on this issue before he takes the lead? This was hardly a valid excuse on his part, but it does underline how Democrats' lack of enthusiasm for increasing the minimum wage has played the pivotal role of a damper here, drawing down the fire of others in unions and grassroots advocacy groups who might have gotten into the fight more heavily if they saw the Democrats on the hustle. The same thing that Al Franken, if you read his book, I read all the autobiography books before I decided to run for president. I thought maybe I should actually see if there's any adults in the room. There were none, but I read all their books just to make sure. So it's not cynicism, it's just I'm just tired of the bullshit. And so when I call people bullshit, it's because I fucking listen to what they have to say, just like we're listening to what Ralph Nader has to say. Maybe I could be more polite about it, but I don't have much time, so fuck the bullshit, fuck the bullshitters. Ralph Nader, fucking I smell a little bullshit on you. But anyways, so what is he? Your fucking story about the head of the AFL-CIO doesn't make me want to fucking follow that guy. This dude's like, oh, the White House isn't doing anything, why should I do anything? Great, so now fucking we lose respect for both of you. And then Ralph Nader's like, well, if the White House would do more, he could inspire these other bullshit bureaucrats to fucking get off their ass. Maybe it's all just bureaucracies and power structures that are vested in the status quo and they don't want to rock the boat. Of course, it was not Obama alone who defaulted here, though Trumka may have pointed to him. It was the whole... What is the time here? 4 minutes. We're right on time. It was the whole Democratic Party that was blameworthy. Riding in on a progressive wave, the Democrats seemed primed to boost the minimum wage. I think there's a fucking typo. After Obama's election. The minimum wage did rise in 2009, but this was no thanks to the people in power. It was part of a previous graduated increase that started in 2007, led by the late Senator Ted Kennedy. Since that time, no movement has been seen, although Obama had 8 years to fight for it. So this is one of the problems, is that I don't know if Ted Kennedy's a good guy or a bad guy. We have to look at his whole voting record. But they grab their little pet causes, they promote them, and that becomes their fucking legacy. Just like, so I guess this is a part of Ted Kennedy's legacy. He's one of the people who supported minimum wage. Fuck the wars of aggression. I'm pretty sure he supported the war in Iraq and all that other shit. But at least he supported the minimum wage, right? We're going to choke on the minimum wage as we die a suicide of empires. Nader talks about empire later on. Let me back up off of it. Talking to Democrats should serve as a reminder of why the wage needs to be raised and what no-brainer it is to fight for an increase if you want to pick up landslide victory. Why don't they? Are they really that beholden to corporations that they don't even mention this shit? Because I'm giving Nader a lot of shit for it, but it's funny. That's common sense. It's not like I oppose it because I think there's better shit that we could talk about, but I don't oppose doing it. It's just you do need a safety net at the bottom of society. You have to call it somewhere. Call it a minimum wage. And that's the safety net. That's the bottom. That's where, I guess the libertarians go off the fucking reservation. And they're like, no, a state of nature. Let's not protect anyone's rights. You have to protect the commons. You gotta... Political science should be that, a political science, a science in which we discuss how to divide up the economy. Economy coming from the Greek word for the household budget. We have things in trust, our natural resources of America, our borders, our markets, which function to facilitate the transfer of goods and services throughout the economy. We should protect those things. Those are our commons that we should protect through legislation and just create a level playing field for everyone. It's not that fucking, I don't know. That's what I think. Maybe it's simple in my head, and we're gonna learn. I'm gonna find out if I'm wrong by educating myself. I just don't think, minimum wage is there's other stuff to talk about, but we'll spend time on this. Historically speaking, it was the way this winning issue with voters was sidetracked and ignored that helped pave the way for Trump. It's not as if the arguments in favor of a minimum wage hike were lacking. Just consider these points. A lot of his rhetoric and talking is just to be able to lay platform points, which is cool, because we're looking for platform ideas right now. A wage increase represents pure fairness for millions of hard-pressed American workers and their families. Not definable, but we'll allow it. Over 70% of Americans in national polls, which includes conservative voters, support a minimum wage that keeps up with inflation. Most of us don't support war, but what are you going to do? There has been a drumbeat of local politicians embracing a wage increase, and 2012, 18 states raised minimum wages to 11 an hour to reach $13.50 by 2020. All right, that's cool. Then that might be a case of then just allow people to maybe there is a libertarian solution to this. Maybe you should allow the states to just do it on their own, and then the states that prosper under that will prosper, or will all the labor then go to the cheap states? I don't know. That's where political science is. Let's just look at the science of this. Let's understand what we want, which is we want people to have a fair living wage. But then let's try to figure out the most rational, scientific way to get about doing that. Iterative, by just trying it. That's why the states idea is such a great idea. A lot of the times the states are able to iterate all this stuff, and so I would just advocate lowering the authoritarian nature of our current federal government in order for the states to function more as the laboratories of democracy. But so some of this prescriptive top-down approach makes me suspicious of the left. The authoritarian approach to solving society through mandates as opposed to natural experimentation and iteration. Since at least 1968, businesses and their executives have been raising prices and their salaries. Note Walmart CEO makes over $11,000 an hour plus lavish benefits, but they have not increased the wages of their increasingly more productive workers whose federal minimum wage is lower in purchasing power than it was 50 years ago. Maybe that needs to be changed, but maybe you don't understand the levers by which to change that without becoming authoritarian. This one I'm becoming very sensitive when I talk to people on the left. On the right, it's pretty evident, especially the religious, that they have an authoritarian nature. But I'm noticing on the left, where their logic runs out, their requirement for authority starts increasing. I notice this is with like my young college-educated friends, or the ones who are in college. This one girl recently, we dropped acid, we were talking, and like I was talking about the Tao and Zen, a bunch of fucking politics shit, and I noticed just her language was like, should do this, we have to do that, and I was like, where does your coercion come in? That's a lot of like coercive language. It's when you're really sensitive to that stuff, you start to notice where it comes out. That when people don't understand, they have empathy and caring, but they don't understand how you get what they want to flourish, and they start. It's like it's easier to garden with chemicals and a bunch of fucking chemical bullshit than it is to learn natural rhythms, which are holistic, which could get the same yield and the same effects, but without the chemicals. But it takes wisdom and tradition and things that have iterated over a long period of time. Whereas those shortcut solutions sometimes put a lot of pollution and bullshit and carcinogens into your soil. That is the metaphor I would use for that. So I'm a little bit suspicious. I like the idea of minimum wage. I'm suspicious about how he would go about doing it or other stuff based on the way he constructs his arguments and the logic he relies on. The tens of billions of dollars that an adjusted minimum wage would provide to consumers' buying power would create more sales and more jobs. Aren't economists always saying the most important way out of a recession and the investment stall is to increase consumer spending? This is the second time I've noticed it. I'm sure he's done it before, but I'm just, this slow reading, I'm actually paying attention to it. He's relying on those he vilifies and demonizes in order to prove his point. Aren't economists always saying, and before he said, even ExxonMobil agrees that we should have a carbon market. And so when you get to actual structural systemic change, you question the framers of the narratives and how they're framing it. Should we be measuring the economy through consumer spending and buying power and jobs? Or should we be measuring it in ownership and freedom and liberty and and participation? Is that the American Empire proves this. We can have a high lifestyle and have low levels of freedom. That's what we have right now. American lifestyle is great compared to the rest of the world. Our freedom's not so much so. In advanced countries even. Our freedom of our press, the basic lifestyle, like the infant mortality and what's actually at the bottom, isn't so good compared to advanced nations. But on the global scale, compared to someone born into a shithole in Africa, no offense, but these are the losers of fucking society. These are the people we want to help by dismantling the American empire. We don't want to judge them, but I'm saying that their quality of life is lower because of colony and because of empire. But if we don't bring that into the discussion and you just say they're a shithole, but you don't talk about the historic reasons why they've been disadvantaged, predatory reasons, the scramble for Africa and all that shit, the thing that's still going on now because those empires weren't dismantled, They just got better PR. I mean, World War II was the war over African colonies among colonies in other parts of the world.
Off track, Chaz, off track.
The most important studies collected by the... Yeah, was it? Yeah, well, we got off because he said, aren't economists always saying it? I was like, economists? Really? You're going to use their logic, Nader? What do you believe in? Most independent, he believes in his Underwood typewriter and his newspaper. He's an actor. This is fucking Tucker Carlson worth his bow tie. Ralph Nader is a political actor. It's political theater. Just to rile you up enough to make you feel like someone's fighting the good fight. Man, I hope there's more logic to this book than that. Most independent studies collected by the Economic Policy Institute show no overall decrease in employment due to a minimum wage increase. Most studies show that job numbers would go up overall. The landmark study rebutting claims of lost jobs was conducted by professors David Card and Alan Kruger in 1994. That's just taking out the argument that if you increase the minimum wage. But I'm just saying, like, allow market forces to work. If this is true and it's really the most efficient solution, why does it have to be mandated top down? Why can't we open up markets and just... But maybe minimum wage is one of those things that has to be enforced because the market won't naturally. But I'd like to look into it a little bit more. Like and that's what critical thinking is let's just weigh it out. But we've already started to doubt Ralph Nader's ability to be a critical thinker without his biases. So we're going to start taking what he says with a grain of salt. But that's interesting. We file it away for later. Many organizations with millions of members are on the record as favoring an inflation-adjusted increase in the federal minimum wage. They include the AFL-CIO and member unions. Oh yeah, because they came off great in your last anecdote. The NAACP and La Raza and hundreds of nonprofit social services and religious organizations. They need to move from being on record to being on the ramparts. Oh, because we have to... Literary, right? Tying back into the French Revolution of fucking children who actually are dying for some fucking cause which didn't change anything at all. French Revolution set up Napoleon, who set up his reforms, but mostly through his authoritarian dictatorship. And the reforms still lasted. And Napoleonic law and all this shit. Because he wasn't a part, I guess, of the elite, so he was able to come in with some fresh ideas. But the French Revolution, calling us to be on the ramparts, that didn't birth any democracy. They said some nice shit. But the biggest condemnation against the French Revolution and why I'm so critical against the language of that time is because Haiti happened around the French Revolution. And Haiti was not allowed to flourish. The first black colony that gained its independence through a revolt. I think maybe the only black colony that actually the slaves themselves revolted and took it over. And they were never forgiven their debts, and they've been fucked with ever since. And so the French Revolution, we put the microscope on France and we say, yes, the left and the right came out of there. To the ramparts and all the romantic fucking... That's very insensitive to the rest of the world and all the cause and effect that were happening around the rest of the world. You can only believe in liberalism, and especially neoliberalism, but liberalism in the Enlightenment age and the age of democracy. You can only believe that when you ignore where the wealth was coming into Europe from. And the rest of the people who were fucked with back then are still being fucked with. It's all part of the bigger system. If you ignore one part, in order just to focus on the other part, that's how you allow all this racism and all these bullshit excuses to come in, because they use your own hypocrisy and cynicism against you. Your own ignorance against you. You have to see the bigger picture. So all that rant is just about the word ramparts. Chill out, Shaz. With some Republicans supporting a higher minimum wage, even under Trump, a push in Congress would split the iron unity of the Republicans. This issue may also encourage Trump voters to vote for Democrats. A Republican worker in McDonald's or Walmart or cleaning company still wants a living wage to support his or her family. But they vote against their interests because of emotional triggers. And that's what it is, Ralph Nader. You're not going to get people to get over those emotional triggers. My theory is, and I haven't won shit, so I don't know as well, but you don't know either, is you need a better narrative. So you're saying that you need all these points, but I think you need the bigger picture. I think these points are good, which is why I'm reading your book. Thank you for the points. Thank you for the research. I'll incorporate it in my own shit. But I think you need a bigger overall picture, because this doesn't help us make sense of the world. Not when you say, all right, now let's come back into the pen. the Democratic pen and trust another Democratic leader in order to fucking lead us astray. If you're going to be principled, you need to be principled. You have to take a principled stand. Otherwise, it's this lukewarm bullshit. Looking back, calls by grassroots organizations and others for a raise in minimum wage during the Obama years left Democrats unmoved. However, to his credit, Rep. Jesse Jackson, Jr., Democrat, Illinois, in June 2012, did introduce the Catching Up to 1968 Act of 2012. 1968 again, always fucking with that. Legislation to raise the federal minimum wage to $10 an hour. While a few congressional champions of the people, such as Jackson, got behind the issue. And why do you have to do this? I have to look into Jesse Jackson's voting record now. I'm just going to trust you to say champions of the people. We already know you're fucking lesser than two evils bullshit. I can't take people that you vouch for just as cool. We got to check out his voting record. We have to see if he voted for war, if he voted for empire. That's why you need to get that bigger context. So you find out actually what game board history is being played on. Or else we're going to do another falling for Obama, another falling for Bernie. I knew Bernie Sanders wasn't getting through the Democratic political party machine. You got to see that bigger picture, or else you get your time wasted. While true congressional champions of the people, such as Jackson, got behind the issue, it's also something I was involved with advancing at the time. The majority of Democrats kept reveling in the swamp. Then why do we have to? Because they tolerate unions again. The majority of Democrats kept reveling in the swamp. These are the types of books I give to my friends, and they read them, and they like people who aren't interested in politics. And they're like, why'd you give me that? I just feel like shit. And just talk about a lot of problems, no solutions, and at the very end, it's an argument for a lesser two evil bullshit. It's like the apathetic people say these books. I gave one to my girlfriend once, a long time ago. I gave her a Chomsky book. She was like, she's bright. She's not the brightest, but she's bright enough to understand Chomsky. But she was like, I don't like reading him. After I read him, I just kind of feel bad. I just kind of feel depressed. It's like they give you the real history. And then they say, okay, now keep getting fucked. Congratulations. When Jackson introduced the measure, the minimum wage was $7.25, way below the unrealistically low federal poverty definition of $18,123 per year for a family of three. Adjusted for inflation, the 1968 minimum wage today would be about $11 an hour. Together with Reps. John Conyers, Democrat, Michigan. We're going to look up all these people. This will be in the notes. So we check out their voting record. You can't throw everyone out, the baby with the bathwater. Maybe it's some other... Well, if we're building a real platform, we have to go by reality and go by what these guys are saying, but we just want to make sure it ties into the systemic, orderly dissolution of the American empire for the sake of the world, or else it's suicide. Anything less than that, and we're losing the earth and all its inhabitants within a couple generations, if not the next generation. Just because that's the end game of this empire. We're not going to be able to do the things that we're planning on doing without a response, and the response is going to be fatal to the human race. Just read history, technological capabilities, whether it'll be like AI drones, nuclear war, dirty bombs through guerrilla war, environmental fucking catastrophe through global warming. It's all of these are triggered by empire and imperial lust for power. I don't even know if we have capitalism or whatever. What do we have around the world? Capitalism would be markets. That's not really. It's capitalism protected by imperial might. So it's really empire. That's we don't even have economic ideologies. We have economic fucking propaganda used to justify might makes right, brute force. So, but anyways, if you don't look at the bigger picture, we're gonna look up these guys. Together with Rep. John Conyers, Democrat, Michigan, Dennis Kucinich, Democrat, Ohio, Robert Weissman, President of Public Citizen. At that time, I was pleased to be with Representative Jackson at a news conference to explain this long overdue necessity for millions of hard-pressed working Americans of all political persuasions. So, Ralph Nader, you're trying to explain to us what the fuck you've been doing all this time. Okay, so we're supposed to... He's like, I was saving the world. I was promoting the minimum wage. Don't blame me.
I was rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
The purpose of the minimum wage, first enacted in 1938 under President Franklin Roosevelt, you like that guy, don't you? You respect him, was to provide a minimally livable salary. This implied at least keeping up with inflation, if not with new living expenses not yet envisioned 75 years ago. While businesses like Walmart and McDonald's have been raising their prices and executive compensation since 1968, these companies have received a windfall from a diminishing real minimum wage paid to their workers, as have their stockholders. Are we going to talk about the stock system? Because we can't just, corporations are bad, but we're also kind of all invested in corporations. Not all of us, but a lot of America through the stock system, diffusing responsibility. So it's just these problems are a little bit more complicated. And that's another thing. He framed this all by saying, this is how you win elections. Trust me, I'm Ralph Nader. Fucking ain't one shit, but I'm going to tell you how to win an election. There's a cynicism to this. There's idealism wrapped in... This is why I didn't want to write until I really knew what I was going to hinge my arguments on, which sound more and more like they're going to be on authority, and anarchism versus totalitarianism and authoritarianism. But it's because I wanted to actually have values, because that's what I'm sensitive to, people who don't have values. Cynicism, I guess. Since the minimum wage has not been raised, these arguments are still totally valid today. The economics behind Jackson's bill are strongly supportive of moral and equitable arguments. You know what it is? Talking about raising the minimum wage without talking about structural changes to the economy is like talking about increasing VA services without talking about ending the American Empire. You're still going to have a lot of soldiers coming into these VA hospitals. It's a shame that soldiers aren't getting treated after sacrificing for the country. But it's a greater shame that the soldiers were lied and conned into these foreign wars of aggression, acting like we're an honorable country when we're nothing more than an imperialist, bloodthirsty country that's securing corporate profits and sacrificing the lives of our citizens to do that. Our poor citizens, we're paying a fraction of what we pay private contractors in order to secure corporate profits. That's the greater injustice. Their treatment after that war, and we want to take care of them too with the VA and everything else. And I'm learning about the homeless benefits that veterans get here in New York, me not even having an honorable discharge. But that's how I feel, or that's my intuition that this minimum wage discussion is having, is going to be like, is that it's just superficial shit. But we will see. I'm open-minded. I'll look into it. Oh, but this is also, he's like, this is what I've been doing the last couple of years. It's like, I think there might have been more important things to be doing. Most economists agree that what our ailing economy needs is more consumer demand for goods and services, which will create jobs. Tens of billions of dollars flowing from higher minimum wage will be spent by poor families and workers almost immediately. What the fuck, dude? You want us to be consumers? You don't want those families to save? What are we even talking about? Do you even economy? Come on, Nader. Really? So we're going to say that we're going to agree with economists' framing that all we need is more consumer spending? That's like the capitalist nightmare that we're on, is that we spend too much money on stupid shit. We make too much stupid shit. We buy too much stupid shit. We need to reform our character. This isn't a sustainable way to live this American consumerist economy. We need to live simpler, reform our character. We're being emotionally stimulated to buy crap too. You're not addressing any of that. And then so you defended your minimum wage hike by saying people will buy more crap with the extra money. That will stimulate more of our economy. We need systemic change in our economy, more ownership where we don't have to rely on, that's the whole thing. And that's where we have to get to systemic change. Do we really want an economy where we're beholden on selling our labor to be able to, we're basically like slaves who have to feed and clothe ourselves at some point. A lot of people just live to work to pay off their bills to enter the cycle again. We're not happy. This isn't a life. We're depressed, we're sad, we're fucking over-emotionally stimulated in order to get our acquiescence for political and economic decisions, which disenfranchise us, and steal more of our energy and our time and our inheritance. The commons are our inheritance. We're all born as human beings inheriting this earth and its productivity. No matter what nation you are born in, no matter what family you're born in, whether you're American or not, It's like, you're a human being, dude, and the earth is for humans. No one person can fucking hold it all, manage it all, keep it all. So we have to manage this in concert together. How? You're so short-sighted, my dude. This is why people don't listen to you, because you don't have anything we're saying. But whatever, we're judging too harshly. Let's get on. Blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, you use the economist to defend your point, and that's what set me off. I'm learning my triggers. It's good. At the time Jackson's bill was introduced, I said, where are the Democrats in Congress to make this a banner objective for the election year 2012? Their adversaries, Speaker John Boehner, a Republican, Ohio, and Senator Mitch McConnell, a Republican, Kentucky, would not be able to hold 100% of their Republicans on this popular issue. That means the bill's backers could override these two rigid ideologues, so-called public servants, who make over $100 per hour off the taxpayers, plus generous pensions, health insurance, life insurance, and other benefits. Come on, Ralph Nader. I made some money. I made more than 150 when my best weeks in real estate. I would write down, how many hours did I work? Did I work like 80 hours? Did I really just wake up, work, go to sleep, and then you write down your commissions? You're like, even if I was working as much as I possibly could on these deals, and I made I tapped out 150, 170 an hour on my streaks. And then there's some streaks that you're fucking making dog shit. You work for free a lot. But when it's good, I've learned to that's why I do that when you make a lot of money. Because you're I'm at a really good average right now compared to work put in and commissions taken out. So sometimes you walk away from the table saying, I'll just pick it up next month, next cycle. Let me just cut this now, because no matter how good I am for the rest of the month, it's going to be diminishing returns. And if you hit your bills, and if you did that at a really efficient rate, take the money and walk away. You're only going to put more money, more labor for less work. I bring that up because those experiences make this whole $100 an hour fucking rich shaming, it's not effective towards successful people. Our values are different. I don't like authority. I don't like fucking authoritarianism. We want freedom, and we want an equitable society with people to have a decent safety net. We don't want to cap how much the ambitious among us can make. I mean, should our government workers be making that much? I don't know. That's another discussion, though. But just by throwing it out there, it's like, oh, guess what? They make $100 an hour. It's not that much money in the greater scheme of things, Nader. But the bill, I wonder, hasn't Ralph Nader ever really worked in a competitive field where his earnings were based off of his efficiency? But the bill is defeated, another nail in the Democrats' platform. If Trump is to be defeated, the Democrats have to get out of bed with the fat cats. But we've acknowledged it's a systemic thing. They can't. They would die. They would get defeated even more. You need money in order to play this. See, he's not addressing why they're in bed with him in the first place. That he's not addressing the inputs of the system. It's interesting. Does he really not logically see why you should do that? Am I giving him too much credit? Does Ralph Nader, has he approached his Peter principle of political ideology? He just can't analyze any further than where he's at right now. If Trump is to be defeated, the Democrats have to get out of bed with the fat cats while these big bucks characters are upping their obscene pay every year. Big bucks characters. I hate these fucking generalizations. It's just cheap. They often seem to be more circus proprietors than business people because they pay their workers so little. After he says that we want to pander to the workers and the poor in order to get votes, I can't trust his sincerity in trying to speak for or defend the workers. That's what it is when you talk about just winning elections, then you lose all credibility about being an idealist. If Trump is to be blah, 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 this whole debate over minimum wage also, I have to hurry up, I'm spending too much time. This whole debate over minimum wage also casts a spotlight on the big corporate bosses who pay themselves $11,000 to $20,000 per hour and harm such avarice. Hold on, I need to take a break. It seems like all I can do is a couple of 30 minutes up there. Let me see if I can put this here. I can do that. Hi, my name is Shaz. I work for the President of the United States. But first, let's read a book. And harm such avarice causes pay themselves, blah, blah, blah. And the harm such avarice causes their own companies, workers, and shareholders. Stephen Clifford has so brilliantly documented in his new book, The CEO Pay Machine. So yeah, if we acknowledge that it's bad for market forces, then all we have to do is to open up those market forces, and then that should take care of themselves, their competition. So there might be a market solution to this. Maybe if we got more information about corporate practices and we informed consumers, might be able to affect this through market dynamics, where we just decide to start boycotting companies that aren't paying their employees living wages. But then that would be, see, there's some ways that we can maybe address these problems that aren't so authoritarian as top down. If the Democrats, it's like this creative anarchism that I think of, like this creative problem solving that doesn't rely on quick fix authoritarian methods of just let's wield more power, because then that power can be wielded just as quickly the other way. And it doesn't seem intellectually honest to criticize an authoritarian government by demanding more authority, even if the authority is in the name of the people.
I think the last video messed up, so we're going to try that over. This is Shaz Barbarek, reading To the Ramparts by one Ralph Nader. We are on page 23, chapter 1, second, third paragraph, fourth paragraph down. If the Democrats want intellectual heft to rebut the craven objections of the corporatist think tanks and trade associations headed by bosses making big time pay themselves, they make them big time. They cannot do better than to, I already read this, so that was my second go around. I had that in my head. They cannot do better than to refer to the work done by the Economic Policy Institute in Washington, D.C. I just love this type of writing. If the Democrats want intellectual heft to rebut the carpeting, so what do we want? We want intellectual heft. Because what do we have to do? We have to rebut the carping craven objections of the corporatist think tanks. So if we want the gumption, the balls, if we want the, what is intellectual heft? Well, I guess that's research, I guess. So if we want info to oppose objections, that's funny, you're opposing objections, to rebut the objections to, we'll just say oppose, we'll simplify that, corporatist think tanks and trade associations. And so we have a modifier, corporatist, but these are think tanks, not the corporations themselves, but the think tanks that I guess they employ in trade associations, which is like the, what is it, the fucking, those corporate, every town has one, the Chamber of Commerce and shit. Headed by bosses making big time pay themselves. The heads of companies do make a lot of money. But we're not talking about the corporations, we were talking about the corporate think tanks and trade associations. They cannot do better, and because this is back to the Democrats, if we want the intellectual heft to rebut the rebuttals. So we can't do better than, if we want that, to refer to the work done by Economic Policy Institute in Washington, D.C. So, like, you have a whole paragraph just to introduce the Economic Policy Institute. And it's an interesting way to make your argument. It's very convoluted in the sense it's not clear language. But so, yeah, Economic Policy Institute, what about them? More income for the poor means less child and family poverty, which means less reliance on federal outlays for the poor to survive. What I liked the other day I came up with was, he's talking about raising the minimum wage, more income for the poor, and then he's talking about all the benefits of that. It's like, instead of fighting the wars and trying to end our imperial wars of aggression, we instead work on VA treatment, which is honorable, noble. We need to treat our veterans better. But to focus on that and then just say, look, the more money we put into the VA, the more soldiers can get. And then you start listing numbers. You could have that conversation forever. And I don't know if this is a conversation we should be having, or if this is something that maybe is more symptomatic of a larger systemic issue. Is my question so far. And then the convoluted way he makes his arguments. The big companies, for example, Walmart, take advantage of federal aid, steering some of their employees to food stamps, Medicaid, and housing and energy assistance programs. It's not good. As Terrence Heath noted in an opt in The Nation of Change, so all of us are subsidizing the wealthy owners and executives of Walmart, McDonald's, and Target. But we don't have to shop at these companies. That's what I'm saying, is that like a market solution is like, you want to regulate this problem away, well, what if we just boycott the shit out of them until they fucking act right? The power is in the hand of the consumer, I would imagine, because we're colonized at the cultural level where we don't even know what powers we have. And then we have these Democrats over here using that, the fact that we're culturally colonized, that so they're using that lack of identity that we have about ourselves and our condition and to try to corral us into the Democratic pen, which he stated from the outset. At least they tolerate unions. They're the lesser of two evils. The whole book is going to be an argument how to push us back into that pen. That's interesting. Where's it at? Yeah, so that's why I just showed that. You don't need Ralph Nader to raise the minimum wage. We just need an organization of fucking strikes and boycotts. Just hit them at the fucking... We have all the power we need. That's what it is. That's what Ralph Nader said. We need to do this, this, and that to win elections. He's just justifying electing Democrats. We could do what they're asking or what they're offering. Well, let's check at the very end. What can we do on our own? And what do we need representatives? And then that'll be the platform of the third political party. Is the shit that you actually... Why? Because otherwise you just make shit more complicated. Let's legislate as least as we need to, I think, is a common sense solution. You want to parent as least as you need to. You don't want to be a fucking helicopter parent. You want a helicopter government. A 2012 report by the respected National Employment Law Project, NELP, titled Big Business, Corporate Profits, and the Minimum Wage, said that the majority, 66%, of low-wage workers are not employed by small businesses, but rather by large corporations with over 100 employees. The 50 largest employers of low-wage workers are mostly in strong financial position. And note that this finding by NELP, the top executive compensation averaged $9.4 million in 2011 at these firms. This means that the bosses, before taking a lunch on January 2nd, made more money than a minimum wage worker makes in a year. Talk about the corrosive effects of inequality. The top 1% took 93% of the nation's income growth in 2010, according to Holly Sklar of Business for a Fair Minimum Wage. So my only argument is this is good research. I'm glad he did it. I will now take it and claim it as my own. But are you telling us the best way to solve this? Or are you just wasting our time? Is what I find a lot on the left. Is tilting at windmills, wasting time, yelling and arguing about emotional triggers and shit that doesn't really matter. They're trying to unify you as a class around your identity of poverty in order to vote Democrat. Your identity as African American to support Barack Obama. These politicians, they only look at people as categories. But it's like, yeah, income inequality is shitty. How much can we take care of on our own as consumers and organized citizens? That's what it is. They don't want us self-aware, and they don't want us organizing ourselves, because then the Democrats are no longer needed. And these are bureaucrats. The Republicans are the assholes who want to take from everyone else. The Democrats are the assholes who apparently just want to justify their lifestyle. It's like, we don't want to be like the richest people, but we do want to fucking kind of be in charge. They're the ones who want power, I guess. He's interesting. I guess those are the two extremes of human behavior. We'll see. But anyway, so anything we can do on our own, income inequality is a terrible thing. Not a terrible thing, but it seems a little fucked up. Internally, just morally, it seems wrong for someone to have so much, someone to have so little. I think we proved that as children. So, but we just need more awareness of what the world actually is in its current state. That's what it is. People don't realize how fucked up the world is if you just lay everything out openly, transparently. I think people make the right decisions as far as pushing capital where it should go. And that's what open markets do.
Enlightened business leaders are ready to support the Democrats on this minimum wage increase initiative. Years ago, in 2012, Jeff Long, a senior vice president of Costco, gave the obvious reasons that the retrograde corporatists ignore. At Costco, we know good wages are good business. We keep our overhead low while still paying a starting wage of $11 an hour. Our employees are a big reason why our sales per square foot is almost double that of our nearest competitor. Instead of minimizing wages, we know it's a lot more profitable for the long term to minimize employee turnover and maximize employee productivity and commitment, product value, customer service. This is a list I'm giving you, a list of things that we know it's a lot more profitable for the long term in order to maximize. And the last one, company reputation. The starting wage at Costco in 2017 was $13. That was a good plug for Costco, dude. Good job, Nader. But again, are we going to really solve this problem by just cherry picking people just to legislate it? Or is there something else going on here? Is there not enough competition in that market to allow the oligarchs, the largest people, to fucking shut everyone else out? If a mom and pop could survive, if we had an atmosphere that supported business from the ground up, maybe they would introduce the competition in order to push wages up. Because then you can choose to shop at a mom and pop or at a corporate store. Back in the day, I used to always try to shop at small little companies, but now there's less and less of them around. Maybe we should just stimulate our economy from the bottom up. Same way we could have done with the housing crisis. Keep people in their homes. You didn't have to bail out the banks, you could bail out the people. Just transfer the power and then have the banks modify the loans, try to keep people in the homes. But I don't know, I guess we don't believe in people enough to help them in the current culture. I'm being helped. Someone believes in me. I don't know if it's a state in New York or if it's a private profit, non-profit. Anyways, back to the shows. Enlightened business leaders. Oh, fucking A. I just did that Costco thing. I remember that. Those in the corporate oligarchy who oppose a higher minimum wage have no moral standing whatsoever. Many of the nation's corporate... I don't know, I might oppose it. What if I thought that there's a better market solution for it? There's a reason to oppose it. You can have the same desired outcome. We want people to be able to make a living off of whatever job they choose. At the bottom of society, if you're willing to work, you should be able to provide for yourself a living. It's going to solve a lot of crime problems. That's just common sense. What do you do with the people who fall through the cracks? They fucking become combustible. That's the whole concept of any of our myths about zombies or vampires the other. The one individual who, once it turns into a monster, can cause a lot of havoc. Which is why you create a society that doesn't allow people to turn into monsters at the bottom of their society. I was in a fucking shelter last week and a guy was... I didn't hear it, but the roommate was like, "Hey, yo, you hear that guy asleep?" I was like, "Nah." He was like, "Yeah, he was talking about killing people. He was talking about some shit. If I ever find you, if I get you." And he was going through some shit in his dreams. So I was like, I'm glad I didn't hear that. That's my business. It's not our business. Who knows who he is? Hopefully he gets his peace. That's what, but the shelter, I think people are trying to make it. Because otherwise you could be a lot of different places. It's not like, very few people, unless you see them a little crazy or really off, have no family, no friends. When you're at the shelter, you're like trying to do it the right way, I think. You're trying to like get away from bad influences. For me, just clear my head, check out the system, learn about the nonprofit services, the homeless services in New York. It helps you adjust the whole picture when you see a homeless person. You're like, all right, I understand what your options are, what's actually going on. Taking an audit, living my politics, taking an audit of society. Chad, you're never going to finish this. Those in the corporate oligarchy who oppose a higher minimum wage have no moral standing whatsoever. Many of the nation's corporate giants pay no income tax, or very little, far less than a cab driver. Between 2008 and 2013, GE's effective tax rate was 9%, despite earning over $34 billion. GE paid no federal income tax for several years prior to 2008, It is hard for companies to make record profits, pay executives record pay, and spending trillions of dollars on unproductive stock buybacks to enhance their own compensation packages to have any credibility on the subject. I mean, I don't know. I'm all about, let's see what's the most effective way to get that. Living wage, maybe it is through legislation. Let's look at their side. But are you talking about revamping the whole tax code, Nader? Because that's what we're really talking about. If we want to dig into the logic of this. Yeah, they're going to pay no income tax, very little, blah, blah, blah. But then why are we talking about minimum wage? Why is that? You're dropping a bombshell. It's like back when I was talking about you're trying to get us money for the VA. But I want to talk about ending the wars of aggression. And now you're like using evidence that the wars were illegally waged, that George Bush lied to us, to support your money for the VA. It's like, whoa. The VA is important. But George Bush lied to us to get us into Iraq? That's a walking on-earth war criminal? That guy he fucked up a lot of the world. It's time to go to your room. Time out. It's punishment time. You gotta fucking put that guy in jail. He's still walking around the earth painting watercolors and shit. It's like, nah, dude. Everyone still knows what you did. No one has the balls to say it yet. So now it's been said. Now shit's gonna start to happen. Blah, blah, blah. Where am I? Oh, right there. I am not relating to this section that we're reading at all. The Democrats should have enacted legislation for a higher minimum wage during Obama's 8 years. Instead, startling as this may seem to readers wearing rosy spectacles, Obama kept aggressively lowering his estimate of the dollar amount needed for an eventual minimum wage boost. Yeah. But I mean, why are you writing like this, Nader? Because that's not how I'm going to try to write. I'm going to try to be very direct and sincere, if comical, and also fucking whatever, simplistic. But sincerity, Democrats should have enacted legislation for a higher what is this fucking should? It's like they don't believe in that. They just talk. That's the worst, is they talk about it and they don't do it. So, and then it says wearing rosy spectacles. You're the one who the whole beginning of this book is that let us not lose sight that the Democrats are better than the Republicans. And then you're willing to trash them this bad. It makes, what type of man are you? What type of person are you? Just be who you are. Be who you say you are. Keep that company. Keep those values. You're saying, our values are over here. The Democrats' track record and values are over here. But because they give us lip service and tolerate, what was that line? At least they tolerate trade unions. Come on, can't you see how trade unions themselves might become a power hierarchy? There might be a good reason why both parties have to interact with them a certain way. Everything's power politics and dynamics and power structures and hierarchies, and you go in with a goal and you try to achieve that objective, but from the outset you say, nope, this is the correct answer, now let us go explore the truth. But never beyond the fucking assumptions of our first assumption, which is the correct answer. It's the same thing with my friend. She was writing this paper for someone, contrast Friedman and Keynes or something like that. And it was there's more to life than that. There's more to economic theory than those guys. But you weren't allowed to step outside that box, that argument. You can only argue those two. Anyways, that was all of this is good emotions. In his 2013 State of the Union speech, Obama said, let's declare that in the wealthiest nation on earth, no one who works full-time should have to live in poverty, and raise the federal minimum wage to $9 an hour. The American people want the federal minimum wage raised to $9 an hour. I'm Barack Obama. My Obama sometimes is okay, it depends. It's more of a feeling. Wait a minute. In 2008, Obama campaigned to have a $9.50 per hour minimum wage by 2011. In 2013, he said he would settle for $9 by 2015, going backward into the future. Yeah, Barack Obama is a piece of shit. I've known that. You've known that for a while. You're going to take a whole book to tell me that? Come on. Again, you're still going to try to keep us in the Democratic Party. Barack Obama put the Democratic National Committee, whatever, their organization structure, he put them in debt $20 million. That's why they relied on Hillary. Hillary had the money. Barack Obama is not a good human being. Apparently, it didn't matter to Obama that at that time, the U.S. had the lowest minimum wage of any major Western country. Australia's was nearly $15, France's was over $13, and the Canadian province of Ontario's was $10.25. All of these countries also had health insurance free for all. It didn't matter, as I mentioned, that 2/3 of low-wage workers in our country work for large corporations such as Walmart and McDonald's, whose top CEOs make an average of $10 million a year plus benefits. Nor did it matter that corporations like Walmart have had to pay workers much more in places like Western Europe than in the United States, where these companies got their start, and that they've still made good profits where the minimum wage is higher. I just don't like the writing style. There's no reason for me to keep arguing about it. It's interesting. Thank you for your opinion and for an update about wage standards around the world. Haven't you noticed how few workers there are now in big box chain stores compared to years ago? Well, one Walmart worker today does the work of two Walmart workers in 1968. A blessed 1968. If only we can go back to the time when the Democratic Convention, we can beat you who didn't agree with us in the head with billy clubs and drag you off to jail for protesting. The Democrats love beating their protesters. Under the Obama, they beat the fucking Occupy Wall Street. And in why would you even bring up that year? That was not a good look for fucking Democrats. That is called a doubling of worker. I said this though before too. I said, what did I call it? I said it's an efficiency dividend. There's an efficiency dividend. Technology has increased the productivity. Technology is shared by all, and that's inheritance of all. But then that goes into a basic guaranteed income, basic standard income, your equity that you earn just for being a human being. Maybe when you turn 18, 20, here's 20 grand, go fuck off. Make your life how you will. Then open up the markets, open up the competition, keep our fucking thriving economy and this and that. And then if we're more organized, we can direct our intention towards the values that we feel are going to benefit this planet, towards environmentalism, pacifism, education. Well, our capital is restrained within these power structures. We could, with more organizing, choose where we want our money and our attention and our energy to flow, and then that'll grow the future. Then we identify and replace violent systems. These are all good ideas coming to me because I'm bored of it's because doing this, reading him and thinking, then reading him and thinking, I'm actually able to contrast my ideas with him and then try to extend beyond where I feel like he's failing me. So it's not just that I'm insulting some dude who likes to write on a typewriter and fucking collect newspapers, but I am trying to actually add to the discussion where I see it's lacking. So it says, he said back here, I'm reading the fucking notes in the margins now. Those in corporate oligarchy who oppose a higher minimum wage have no moral standing whatsoever. So I wrote, do they have any reasoning? You want to hear the other side. And then I also said, is this a system prone to creating oligarchies? So it's like, we're not dealing with a systemic change. That's what it is. Do we really want a world where we have to beg Democrats in order to fix everything? Democrats, fucking, can you raise the minimum wage? Democrats, can we? Or do we want to just organize as self-sufficient a world as possible? Where there's certain, I'm being humble enough that there are certain problems with the commons we might need a government to solve. And protect our national parks and do some other shit. But, anyways, there's some people outside. Some cute girls outside. And then on this margin I wrote, instead of demanding better treatment, let's make plans to escape the plantation. That's pretty much what I talked about here. Is we want less reliance on bureaucrats to govern. That's the whole anarchist idea, is that like democracy is cool. Maybe it's like a worst case scenario, but you want as many decisions affecting your life in your own hands as possible. And then you extend outwards as we need to protect the social sphere. So, technology probably will solve a lot of our governing problems for us if we can organize around the right values and put the right people in place. Well, we'll see. We don't want to ever... It's a slippery slope on vanguardism. The right people. The right system should promote the right talent. Meritocratic system. But then you need like compassion. I guess so in the system itself, you have to build in the values of the world that you want, where you don't have it too meritocratic, or else people slip through the safety net too. It's interesting. It's interesting living in a shelter and seeing people kind of at the bottom of society. These aren't the best jobs either. People who work there are kind of dipshits, and the people who live there are kind of dipshits. But they're cool. They're sweet, and they have good hearts, I think, so far. Shaz, come on. That was it. Oh yeah, his opinion about Europe. Haven't you noticed how few workers there are now? And oh, I already said that. Yeah, many of today's Walmart workers. Yeah, 1968 is what sent me off there. 1968. Oh, more fucking notes. Let me see what you say. The real question is, why are we forced to sell our labor to Walmart? And why are we forced to shop there? He wants to coerce Walmart to share. I want to encourage people to liberate themselves. The difference is the authority required to execute one's philosophy. She doesn't give a fuck if you agree with me. Because if my truth is the truth, the bigger truth, closer to reality, then it's going to happen. We don't need to fucking force people to do the right thing. There's incentives in place already biologically that push you to do the right thing. The only problem right now is confusion. That's what someone told me the calmest person in the room was the one in charge. I don't know, or something like that. Or it's the strongest, or it's the coolest. Or... Instead of offering structural change, he's rationalizing buying votes. Nader, you are no longer relevant. I think after I read this page, I was like, fuck this dude. I got through like page 100, but yeah, that kind of like bummed me out now. I'm just skepticism rising is all. I'll read it, but more and more skeptical as I go. 1968. My collaborators and I got out on picket lines around the time of Obama's insufficient minimum wage proposal, and we demonstrated at shopping malls where Walmart had established giant stores. We noted that 1 million Walmart workers were making far less in inflation-adjusted dollars than what Walmart workers made in, you guessed it, 1968. In 1968, Walmart was run by its founder, the legendary Sam Walton, who started with one store in Rogers, Arkansas. Sam had to pay his workers wages that were worth much more than wages today because the law required him to do so. Yeah, this is just like very... I guess this is what the left is. This is what Democrats are. They're like, the law solves society. Society is cured through laws and prescriptions. Better rules and better rulers. The clenched jaw opposition to raising the minimum wage continues, led by a punishing U.S. Chamber of Commerce and a consortium of CEOs. Low wages paid by stores that service poor people eventually translate into less money spent in those stores, since the consumers are strapped. Internal emails leaked from Walmart in 2013 indicated the company's awareness of this vicious circle, and executives expressed concern about the spending level of the low to middle income shoppers, and the company depends upon most. Now, it should, if Walmart's so big that its own employees make up a big part of its bottom line, that's a problem, first of all. That's not a diversified economy. Also, if we're not dealing with a structural change of making too much shit, buying too much stupid shit, being emotionally triggered and propagandized into being good consumers as a cultural identity. We've created consumption as a cultural identity. You go to other cultures, in Zen Buddhism in Japan and Shintoism, Chinese and Taoism, and the Vedas and the sutras in India, and even Russian, and they have their Orthodox religion, and I don't know, I guess America, we created this culture pretty much artificial in the 20th century in order to keep our imperialism running, I guess, which acquires new markets and then profits off of exploiting those markets with an exchange and interchange with its own economy and those markets, which also we're gutting out our own imperial center now. We're cannibalizing ourselves the same way we would a banana republic. We're treating ourselves like our own tributary. Well, I guess because imperialism is becoming less geographically centered as it moves further into the financial centers and other centers of power. But the point is, Nader, Ralph Nader, if I can call you Ralph, you're not talking about that. You are saying that if we pay the workers more, then everyone wins. That just doesn't seem logical to me. I think this is a violent system that's extracting resources and profits from disenfranchised people. And we only play a role in that system as workers and consumers here in America. Walmart being an international company, we have to deal with where it gets its resources and where it manufactures its goods, as well as the employers here and what we buy here. So this is a disingenuous argument, and I think you're smarter than that. So that kind of scares me. You're giving me an internal leaked memo. Oh my gosh. Where was that? Internal leaked memos. Alright, the next paragraph. Where are all the customers and where's the money? Bewailed Cameron Geiger, a Walmart senior vice president. What Walmart's bosses themselves are coming to realize is that raising their workers' wages would lift the income of millions of workers, who in turn would spend some of that extra cash at Walmart stores. Is that really all we need, though, to create a utopia? That just seems too simplistic. All we have to do is raise everyone's wages, and then they will spend more money, and then the companies will make money. And that's the whole cycle of consumption and capitalism that's stripping our environment and all our natural resources. We need to conceptualize and then create holistic systems which are self-contained. It sounds complicated until you realize that that is what the earth is. A holistic self-contained system with a pattern and a logic to it. So the better we integrate as human animals into that pattern, into that logic, the less disturbances will cause. And that's at every spiritual tradition that has a heart of wisdom has that type of wisdom to fit within the natural pattern. That's what the Tao says, but it doesn't put a name for God. But then you have all these other religions, even monotheism, which identify as natural beauty, natural patterns with God. We argue about the power and all that other shit, but it's supposed to be, we have a tuning fork for human behavior, and it's called nature. I don't know. Those are ideas. What are this guy's ideas? What is he saying? Oh yeah, he's saying let's just pay workers more and then everyone wins. He's really, because that's something you can hold. Raising minimum wage, it's a fucking merit badge that you can put on your Boy Scout sash. That's what I find a lot on the left. Is a lot of the arguments come from them justifying their positions of power. They're just the shitty workers. Grab 3 things on their desk. Look, I'm doing this though. I'm raising minimum wage and I'm doing like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm an environmentalist now. I'm relevant. You don't want to get kicked out of the speaking circuit. These people don't believe in anything. They don't. Anyone who's not willing to step back into that biggest structural point of view and actually propose or work on identifying and replacing violent systems. That's what it is. That's what it comes back to. Even H. Lee Scott, who was once Walmart's CEO, told company executives that the U.S. minimum wage of $5.15 an hour has not been raised in nearly a decade. It is out of date with the times. Our customers simply don't have the money to buy basic necessities between paychecks. A few years ago, feeling the heat from the environmentalist, high-level Walmart managers visited the late Ray Anderson, the pioneering CEO of Interface Corporation in Atlanta, the largest carpet tile manufacturer in the country. So now he's a pioneering. I don't trust your judgment to just trust that this is a good guy. I'll look into him. All of this stuff, the book is going to become a pile of notes with all of the references listed and all the ideas for the platform taken out. Only I feel like, we don't disagree so much on values. I don't really know if you share the values at heart, though, Nader, Ralph, or if you're just justifying your position within the culture of progressivism. Your job as Ralph Nader, your brand is Ralph Nader, who reads newspapers and types on typewriters. I think we might need a little bit more, but the values are, and this guy, so I'll look this guy up. Mr. Anderson was a corporate leader in taking recycling and reduction of pollution to unsurpassed levels while regularly cutting costs, doing well by doing good. This is like a simplistic, this is how to save the world pitch. It's probably why you've gotten as far as you've gotten in life, Ralph. The cutting costs part attracted their attention. These managers are now among the executives running Walmart, and the changes they have made, reducing excessive packaging materials, saving on hot water and energy, and increasing recycling, have brought Walmart lower costs to public praise. So I'm not going to argue against this. Great, Walmart not being as dickish. That's cool, but I don't know if my future involves a Walmart. I would try not to shop there. So I don't know. Why is he even in the discussion? Walmart, they're doing great. I wouldn't cry tears if they fucking shut down. They have their own values and their own culture, and they're their own type of company, but that's a beautiful thing of like free markets and everything else. I think in a just world, you'd have a lot of options to Walmart. And that would incentivize them to change their behavior. People just, they would have to change a lot for me to consider them a decent company. Yet, when it comes to their workers, euphemistically called associates, Walmart bosses can't seem to absorb the evidence that paying them $15 an hour would reduce the company's notoriously high worker turnover and improve productivity and morale. At the store level, all over the U.S., Walmarts are full of surveillance cameras monitoring not just the customers, but also the store's workers. Walmart security guards are stiffer than Army MPs. Come on, were you in the military? What are we talking about, David? What are we talking about? They are programmed to be the private police, keeping away peaceful demonstrators in so-called private shopping malls that were built on tax preferences and abatements. You just throw that line out again. We're talking about getting money for the VA, and then he'll just drop a bomb. Like, you're talking about monetization of fiscal land use policies, or financialization of land use. Basically, when I traveled around California, talked to a lot of local municipalities, we wanted to hit up all the counties. We hit up like 20 out of like 54, 56 counties in California. And so we talked to a lot of local municipalities. We're talking to cities. We're talking to like all the incorporated areas pretty much. And you just talk about land use policies. Why are there big box stores? Or why is Town Square, after Town Square gutted, the few ones that were thriving was surviving? Eureka, Humboldt has really nice Town Square. But a lot of these cities, they're just skeletons of cities. And so there's a municipal debt economy where Wall Street, or what you would call it, private equity or whatever. People who are going after municipal debt, extending them credit. Some would say it's a bubble. Some would say it's ready to collapse. That's how a lot of private works get put into public hands. In other countries, you have whole utilities, water and gas works being given over to private companies. But it starts with that credit, and by them starting to extend credit to the municipalities based off of their tax revenue. So is modern finance good? Probably. Is it good for local municipalities to be able to leverage their income to build more stuff, do more stuff for the public good? So complex financial instruments are cool and all. At one point, are we taking advantage of this and that? That's a heavy discussion. I'm just off the top of my head trying to outline it. And he says, like, built on tax preferences and abatements. You can't just throw that out there. You can, but I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that, Ralph. Context for, like, what are we talking about? Like, we should look into the relationship between municipalities and their financiers and the privatization of public works that results in, or of things that belong. That's what the social aspect is, that we're supposed to protect social society. So certain things belong in the commons, and that's where government should step in to protect. But instead we're talking about minimum, and that's the thing, he's arguing about minimum wage, and then he drops a little detail, and what he's doing is he's making his argument by demonizing Walmart about their security cameras. When I care more about, that's the difference. Hey there, Shaz Barbarian ones and twos. We're getting back to this book, Nader to the Ramparts. We're on page 27 now, page 27. We did like 4 pages in a half hour. We got some good ideas. The slower we go, the more ideas we get. But we do have to finish this book. I want to get to maybe page 30. We'll do page 40 today. We'll try to get to page 50. Yeah, we've got to finish this book within a week. All right, ready? So we're halfway there. Yeah, in the last one I went off because he was talking about surveillance in Walmart. Stiffer than an Army MP. And then he said he dropped so-called private shopping malls that were built on tax preference and abatements. So you're upset about land use in local municipalities. Let's talk about that. Let's get into a deeper discussion. He's like, no, just pay poor people more. They spend more of the economy. It's a happy little... He doesn't want us to question the structure of the economy. If I'd written, or the structure of the tax code, the structure or the relationships between... These are things that Ralph Nader has to see. I've been doing it for about 10 years, talking to local governments. Maybe he doesn't put that work in. Maybe he doesn't actually go... No, he does, though, because he lists a lot of good organizations and people. I don't get it. As I just say, the man's confused. I try to take it further than where he's going. If I'd written our then president on the issue in 2013, I would have put it this way. That's why I like Ralph Nader. He likes to talk to himself as well. Dear President Obama, June 25th marks the 75th anniversary of the federal minimum wage law in the United States, known as the Fair Labor Standards Act. When President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed this legislation, his version was to ensure a fair day's pay for a fair day's work and to end starvation wages. More than 75 years later, there are 3.3 million Americans working for pay at or below the federal minimum wage. More extensively, 30 million low-wage workers are making less today, adjusted for inflation, than they did 45 years ago in 1968. They are working for a wage that does not even reach the federal poverty line for a family of 3. And they cannot afford basic necessities like food, housing, transportation, and healthcare. Now, that's interesting because if you raise the minimum wage to where someone can support a family of 3 on the minimum, that's an interesting lifestyle. Because right now, I'm wondering how much I want to work while I write, while I try to launch this brand, Shaz Barbaric. And I found a way to not work at all, stay in a shelter. And they feed you 3 square meals, plus food stamps gives me like $150, $200 a month. What? So I get 3 square, plus I could go to 7-Eleven and fucking been loading up on those burritos. You could only buy cold food, but you can buy cold food, throw it in the microwave, it becomes hot. What? I already bought this shit. Can't take it back from me. I bought it cold, I made it hot. What? Technology for the win. And then, so the biggest thing is breakfast. Everyone loves the bacon, egg, and cheese. Oh man, being poor sucks. It's like, it's cool and all to do for a little bit, but like, cashless economy, you don't even got the $3, $2 for a bacon, egg, and cheese. So I got this breakfast burrito. I was like, boom, breakfast burrito, because I've been eating all these chicken burritos, which are good and all. It's like that. You get the nasty chicken burrito that has all just the slop, the bomb, and it has like beans and meats, and maybe there's cheese and sauce, but it's just a gooey slop, and but you're so drunk, you fucking, this is like late night munchies if you went to 7-Eleven. If your designated driver decides to take you to 7-Eleven before bringing everyone to their individual houses. But then there's a chimichanga, which it's never crispy, but you can imagine it was crispy once, but it's all like soft fucking, but it still has actually a shell, like a Hot Pocket type shell. But so I saw this breakfast burrito, and I was like, I'm gonna get breakfast burrito, actual breakfast food. The dude was like, no, it doesn't Doesn't work. You can't do it. Something. I don't know. Whatever the fuck he said, what he said in the accent. And I was like, fuck. They got me. They knew that I was going to heat that bitch up. With the other burritos, maybe they think, you can eat these cold, whatever. But with that breakfast burrito, they're like, dude's going to throw this in the microwave. We better fucking make sure it's on the cannot purchase with EBT list. What the fuck is that? It's okay. I found this fucking macaroni and cheese that I'm addicted to. 7-Eleven 7 Select macaroni and cheese. I ain't even trying to get a sponsorship. I'm just letting people know because they only put out 1 or 2 a day. And you put that shit in the microwave for a minute 30, minute 45, all the cheese gets melty. There's bacon. And there's, man. It's like when your life is simple, the simple things are the things that you love. What the fuck were you talking about? I don't know, it's good to clean out some of the fucking bullshit every now and then. Each year, the federal minimum wage is not increased. You and Congress are effectively telling low-wage workers that they're not worth as much as they were the year before, and each dollar they earn gets stretched even further, due to the effects of inflation. And every year that we have these wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and now Syria, Libya, we bombed. Now we're going into Venezuela, or at least the drones war being beat. Also, they're talking about Iran. So those are lives. Let's prioritize our suffering. We're still talking about minimum wage. Come on, what are we doing here? Here's where you can make a moral executive decision. Under your watch, federally contracted low-wage workers walked off the job and participate. There has to be a term for this. Someone who picks something lower down on the priority ladder just in order to exhaust our resources and our fucking... I'm going to read this whole fucking book, though. Participated in some of the largest strikes the nation's capital had seen in recent years. Despite the fact that they worked on company contracts for federal governments, they were still being paid poverty wages, and some even explained that they were being paid less than the federal minimum wage, which invites your administration's immediate investigation. This is disgraceful. The federal government should be providing a shining example of fair and just treatment of their contracted workers for other employees to follow. Yeah, that's what it is. I don't disagree with their points, Ralph. I wonder if this is the discussion we should be having right now. If you issued an executive order to get this done, you would move closer. I mean, I guess it's housekeeping. Get in there and just do this shit. This doesn't seem like that controversial of a thing. If you issued an executive, maybe I was just thinking, perhaps Barack Obama's too busy. All these politicians are so busy trying to get reelected, and with their own agenda, this falls off the plate. But it's like, I don't know. If you believe in something, you make it a priority. So you have to actually get them for faking the belief too. When you say you're about something, then you don't actually work for that. You're not about it. So you're a bullshitter now. We need to know that you're a bullshitter, label you as such so other people are fucking forewarned. I don't think Ralph Nader's not a bullshitter. He's just myopic. It's like he doesn't see the bigger picture. He's gassed on being Ralph Nader. That's what Barack Obama pretty much had him. He said after he met him, he was like, Ralph Nader has a very big opinion of Ralph Nader. As he inserts multiple letters from himself into his own book. If you issued an executive order to get this done, you would move closer to FDR's vision of ending starvation wages. Your decision would set a good example for the rest of the business community to follow and provide the type of determined and persistent leadership that our country's political class has lacked for decades. When was it good? When was your golden year? You're the one who wants to keep us in the Democratic Party. Well, your golden year was so the political class in 1968 is Ralph Nader's standard of the fucking golden years of the Democratic Party. Do you even history? You're just expecting an ignorance of... this is malicious now. You're malicious. Ralph Nader, you're being malicious. Especially if you also limit CEOs and other top executive pays on substantial federal contracts to an amount no greater than 25 times their entry-level wage. I mean, this is kind of maybe market mechanisms to get things back to normal. But let's see how much we have to involve the government first. And let's look at it dispassionately and definitely with a different framework than what you're bringing to the table. Because you seem malicious, Ralph Nader. Famed management guru Peter Drucker believed in this range as prudent corporate practice, and legendary investor Warren Buffett has been very critical of excessive executive compensation. According to let me see. All right. Only 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. We're doing good. According to a recently released report from Demos, a public policy organization, the federal government indirectly employs the largest number of low-wage workers in the country, more even than Walmart and McDonald's combined. The Washington Post reported. So this is a question: if they do this, and if it was that easy for Obama just to flick a flick of the wrist of the pen in order to raise federal employee income, why aren't you doing it? This is where you just looking at it dispassionately, not trying to take sides, but poking fun at Ralph Nader when I think he's being silly. But like lay them up against each other. All right, where is Ralph right, and where is maybe Obama actually wrong? Maybe the little bulldog is onto something. This was a very easy demonstration of Barack being a bullshitter. Barack a bullshitter. Well, people get on him for that more. He's like the worst characteristic of a human being. It's like, fuck the dumbass. Before him, we had George Bush, who was a dumbass con artist. You can just read the aggression in his eyes. But is it better to be bullshitted? Those are the guys that I hate him more. They smile to your face. All time gonna take your place. Barack bullshit. Barack bullshit. The Washington Post reported in June 2013 that a study from the National Employment Law Project, NELP, surveyed a sample of 567 federally contracted jobs. 74% of federal contract workers surveyed earned less than $10 per hour. 58% had no employment benefits, and 20% depended upon some form of public assistance. I mean, look at me. I'm Shaz Barbaric, and I'm running for president out of a homeless shelter. America. That's actually pretty good, though. That's a good story. I stumbled across a decent story, I think. Reading my book in the phone booth of the New York Public Library like a mouse. In the absence of any serious movement in this disconnected Congress to increase the minimum wage, you have the potential to exert significant influence on wages paid to millions of low-wage workers in this country. With a simple executive order, you can fix this shameful deprivation. I urge you to sign an executive order mandating that federal contract workers be paid no less than $10.70 per hour, the inflation-adjusted equivalent to 1968's minimum wage. Is that too much to ask of you? You know what? Ralph Nader's giving me a little bit of I'll suck your dick for an increase in the minimum wage. But he's like, just really like, that's what it is. When people don't have logic on their side or actual values or passion, it's just they become like a broken record. Like, who is Barack Obama, his character? How has he grown since he's been in president? All he's done is polish the image, but that's not how people age in society. That's why I record myself, is people actually change as they learn and grow and develop different opinions and have different experiences and emotions. Actors don't change because they just go back to the same role over and over again. They need to write some conflict into Obama's life to allow him a little bit of character development to make him more believable. Because Barack Obama now is 2008 Barack Obama, only a little bit more popular, a little bit more swag, but that's not. He's an interesting dude. Where are we at? Is it too much to ask? Which reminded me of last show. This is, of course, no substitute for a lasting federal minimum wage increase, but an executive order provides you with an option to avoid the morass in Congress and effect real positive change in millions of low-wage workers' lives and to effect the change now. I hope that you will recognize and seize this opportunity. This small but important example will make it easier for you to push Congress for a greater and bolder minimum wage increase than you did in your State of the Union address. On the anniversary of the federal minimum wage increase, you should sign an executive order raising the minimum wage of those working in the federal government through corporate contractors. It is the federal government's and your responsibility to set the example for the rest of the country to follow. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Fair Labor Standards Act into law, he showed courage in the face of the Great Depression, as well as considerable opposition and criticism from businesses. It is not time for you to leave your mark, to Is it not time for you to leave your mark, to show Americans what type of president you want to be remembered as, and to be a leader on this issue? Millions of workers throughout the country deserve a minimum wage that at least catches up with that of 1968. I'm sending a copy of this letter to Michelle Obama. Oh, who is said to have your ear? Sincerely, Ralph Nader. He called him bitch made. He just called him bitch made Obama right there. He said, I know you do what your woman says. So I'm sending this letter to your boss. Bitch made Obama. Nice. Burn. Count one for Ralph Nader. Okay. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Fair Labor Standard Act, stop sucking the fucking patriotic dick. Come on, Ralph. Come on. Get up off your knees. What is this? You showed courage in the face of the Great Depression as well. I don't know, dude. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a bit of an authoritarian, wasn't he? He headed off socialism. Maybe that was calculated. He was pragmatic. He'd be more rational than the business people who would just fucking like starve their slave chattels until they revolt. So he's putting out some domestic fires. If you look at what was happening in Europe at the time. And also there's a dude who fucking managed World War II, which was a bullshit war for colonies. He started giving out medals of freedom in order to control the cultural narrative. If you look at the 20th century as a century of deceit, mind control, manipulation, from propaganda and psychology of controlling the masses, turning into modern advertising and the creation of a culture based around consumption. That seems to be the controlling pattern. How does Franklin Delano Roosevelt stack into that? Well, he managed our war for colonies, which didn't need to be fought, but was manufactured and profited a lot of people. So also it was the whole Bloomberg thing and stayed longer than he was technically supposed to. Kind of broke the rules with his 3 terms. A bunch of other shit. I mean, the New Deal, you can say was great, but Robert Moses used a lot of that money to build the fucking the project fucking complexes that you see now, which trap generations of people in poverty. And it's not that he was trying to be an asshole, but he was a racist, and he wasn't the best person to empower to try to cure poverty. So I'm saying that Franklin Delano Roosevelt, did he have the right values to empower to try to do what he attempted to do? There's some good, I guess. The public works program has to have been some good. I see those buildings everywhere, even growing up in California. Our high school was a public works high school. All the buildings have those stones. But I'm just looking at the bigger picture. War is pretty inefficient, costly, idiotic. Maybe it was unavoidable by the time it broke out because we had helped finance and rearm Hitler. But you have to talk about the colonies we fought over. You have to talk about what happened afterwards, all that. But anyways, that's all me unpacking Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He just says he showed courage. It's like that, just like when he drops the municipality fucking land use decisions. It's like, we have to talk about the muni bubble. We have to talk about complex financial instruments and how much are they a service to us and how much are they tools of predation from the people who understand them best. We're creating hierarchies of power which then prey on others. I'm starting to realize what discussion I want to have versus what discussion Mr. Nader is having. That letter might give you the erroneous impression that Obama was the only Democrat heel-dragging on this issue. Since Obama's out of office, let's turn to the highest Democrat in the House at this very moment, Representative Nancy Pelosi, Democrat, California, the House Minority Leader. Is her track record any better? I should say not. Glance over some of the innocuous mailings she sends to her constituents. Under the heading, Employment, there is no mention of boosting the minimum wage even to $10.10 an hour, though Rep. Pelosi ostensibly supports it. The closest option to check was inadequate or no salary increase. This Pelosi mailing, uninspiring and defensive, is another product of the party's overpaid political consultants who have failed them again and again in winnable House and Senate races against the worst Republican Party in history. These consultants, as former Clinton counselor Bill Curry notes, make more money from their corporate clients than from political retainers. Slick, arrogant, and ever reassuring, these firms are riddled with conflicts of interest and might just as well be Trojan horses. I mean, but, so is that your worldview, Ralph? That the Democrats are out of touch, because that's what we're accusing them of, is that Nancy Pelosi as well as Barack Obama are out of touch with actual progressive values, which is why they suffered defeat, which is how Trump came to power. Is your argument so far? And you're telling me that they're out of touch because they're relying on consultants who also have corporate clients. So that's idiotic. So why again should I stay in this Democratic Party? To participate in the system. If this is how they have, instead of getting information from the ground up, they're relying on consultants who have vested interest in keeping these corporate schemes going. Also, we're not really talking about the money yet, but it's really about the money. Is they spend most of the time fundraising, and so they don't have time to innovate if they wanted to innovate. So they're the fundraisers, and then they just hire these consultants in order to create these campaigns. And then also, I don't even know if I believe that. I don't know if the values are coming from the consultants who, you're basically saying, where does the corporatism, where is the vector by which it's infecting the Democratic Party? And you're claiming that it is the consultants who also have most of their funds coming from the corporate culture. So, purposeful or not, are affecting us with their values when we hire them as consultants, as Democrats, in order to figure out what the people want. But it's the very fact that you would hire consultants is not defensible. But this is, again, you're not associating with people based on values, it's based off of fear. You're saying that at least they tolerated trade unions, so they're the lesser of two evils, which is how, your argument is just silly. It's interesting. So I say, this is bad. It's like, I'm not arguing this is bad to hire consultants who are also corporatists. But it's because Democrats don't really believe in anything, so that's why they have to hire the consultants in the first place. They don't really have values other than staying in power. The point here is far more reaching than it may seem. Not only do the Democrats personally ignore the burning issues of the minimum wage today, but they also set up an infrastructure that blocks their own access to vital information. You said at the very beginning, but don't forget they're our only choice. This is why people get depressed by reading these books. By relying on consultants, they lock themselves into corporate-dominated echo chambers where the cries of the people go unheard. Is Ralph Nader himself in an echo chamber of some sort? A progressive branded echo chamber. As you may know, Obama did eventually sign an executive order advancing the minimum wage to $10 an hour. But this only applied to federal contract workers. This was a step in the right direction and one place where he passed on a positive signal to the future, if not, going by Trump, the immediate future. So a livable minimum wage remains agenda item number 1 for a remade Democratic Party. Why did we actually have a discussion on why this should be, agenda item number 1 is kind of like you're saying that's our priority. Now, did we have an honest discussion about, in this chapter number 1, about why it should be our priority? Or did you just tell us that it should be our priority because you're Ralph Nader? You type on the fucking Underwood, and you've collected a lot of fucking papers over your years on this earth. Come on, dude, how arrogant can you be? You're not having an honest discussion about, go from the general to the specific. What's the world that we live in? What's going on? How do we get here? Let's qualify everyone. Let's actually question fucking a lot of our assumptions, a lot of our associations, a lot of our actions, because things seem fucked up and shit. And you're basically like, this is my opinion. Things are fucked up enough to justify my opinion. My opinion is we should, and then I'm like, well, why should we raise the minimum wage? Because if we pay the workers more, then the companies will make more money. And so we're doing things in the interest of the companies. No. It's a win-win. They win and we win. And why is this what we should be doing now? Because look at all these people who are poor. They're poor, man. But why is this a priority? Because it's number 1. I'm Ralph Nader, man. It's number 1. I mean, are you saying utilitarian-wise then? This will affect the most people? So because I'm pretty sure our wars around the world affect the most people globally. And they're technically genocides. And technically that's the biggest con, isn't it? Shouldn't we put war number one? But this is simple though. This is if you minimum wage 1968. And we should just raise it back to that. But why 1968? Because it sounds good. It's like about 50 years. Ralph Nader, do you know what happened in 1968 though? Yeah, I was alive back then. That was cool. You understand that the Democratic Party had a national convention at which protesters came out in Chicago to protest the war. So they thought back then that the war was the most important thing, so much so that they got in the street to protest. Veterans too. They kicked everyone's ass, including the veterans. Hunter S. Thompson was there. He hid with a helmet and then fucking ran back to the hotel. But he almost got his ass beat too. Everyone did. That's what they did back then. I got my ass beat by the cops in New York. They still do it. They still kick your ass, kick me in the head, punch me, and beat me until I gave up because I was resisting. I was protesting. But anyways, enough about me. Yeah, why you haven't really convinced me that we should make this a priority, that the minimum wage should go up. I haven't really differentiated which one is Ralph and which one is me. But anyways, he seems like a silly man. Talking it out makes me more convinced that he's a silly man. That's interesting. But that's why you do this. You read someone this slowly and this spontaneously, just letting your emotions come out, and then you're done with them. Like, you have to make a pretty good argument for me to listen to you again, Ralph Nader. We're going to get I like the research. But then I assume that we can find out where you got these people and these trends and talking about the minimum wage, and then we could do our own research. That's what identify and replace violent systems. Also identify and replace idiocy. So that's what the 1968 is so interesting. You make it so easy for me to tie this into the war, which is a bigger issue than the minimum wage. And you didn't even acknowledge the fact that you would have to justify why this should be our primary issue. Other than, I guess, you kind of did in the beginning, you said that this is what's going to get us the votes so we could get elected. So that's the values. The values is that we just need the right people in place and the right rules. So they don't even acknowledge all the bullshit though. So the bullshit just goes unabated. It's like they want to go on to remaking the world for the better without stopping the current violent oppression. That's not how triage works, is it? Triage, you deal with the life-threatening stuff first, and then you start working to improve and fix stuff, I would imagine. That's what we need. We need, like, political triage. There's some emergencies that need to be dealt with immediately, and they deal with war and existential crises. We'll talk about minimum wage and other shit, but I'm proof. I'm in a homeless shelter. There's a lot of fucking safety nets in society. You're vetoed on that, Ralph. So that's what I'll write at each chapter. Whether I think he brought more truth, more idiocy. I think that chapter was good facts about the minimum wage and some good resources. I'll say 10 out of 10%. 10% decent. On to the next one. Next chapter we'll do a new video. Hey there, Shaz Barbaric, reading out of Ralph Nader's book from Seven Stories Press. Came out in winter of 2018, entitled To the Ramparts. To the Ramparts. Does it have a subtitle? To the Ramparts, how Bush and Obama paved the way for the Trump presidency, and why it isn't too late to reverse course. Reverse course from... Come on, Ralph. Reverse course from paving the way for the... He's already president. So, Bush, what happened? Bush and Obama paved the way. So that's great. You're connecting them both. I like that. And I read later on in the book how you connect them. Their actions support each other, same values. And for some reason, you also want us to join this Democratic Party, which might just be a Democratic progressive value washing over the same interest of the Republican Party. That's the argument you're making in the subtext. But anyways, Bush and Obama, I like that. Now what they're doing, they're paving the way for Trump. So Trump's their fault because of their actions. So Trump is, we're like, Trump. That's why we bought this. Because we want people to explain Trump. Trump. Well, it was Bush and Obama. Oh, that's going to be cool. You'll explain that. And it isn't too late to reverse course. Reverse what course though? Like You said that they're the reason we got Trump, and now we have Trump. How do we reverse from Trump? So it's like, but that shows you right there. So it doesn't take long to see how someone believes what they believe in. You're not offering us any solution, any future. All right, so we have Bush, Obama, and Trump. There's 3 presidents now covering 20 years, 2000 to now 2020. We're going to go backwards. That's the same as Make America Great Again and everything else you've been saying in this. Raise the minimum wage in 1968. You're not offering us any movement forwards. I'm Shaz Barrick. I'm offering a solution, a third political party, myself as a minimum viable product candidate. Hopefully there's other presidential candidates, other congressional candidates who come out, and we all just flood the fucking shit. 2020. But see, that's not reversing course. That's charting a new direction ahead in order to save ourselves from the collective suicide that we all seem to have culturally signed up for. By being born American, I seem to have signed up for an empire and a cultural suicide that I see played out in slow motion all around me. It's kind of depressing. Might be why I'm in a homeless shelter right now. Ralph Nader. Reverse course. You're right, Ralph. We're going to stop Trump from being president. I got you. Fucking dumbass. Okay. You started off on a bad foot today, Ralph. Hopefully you do better. When people were in the streets, the Dems were behind their desks. I would have put, when people were in the streets, the Dems were off their feet. I would have rhymed street somehow. He went for the alliteration, Dems behind the desk. I don't know. Listen, one of us is a poet, I guess. This is going to be hard. I have to get all the way up to fucking like 47. And right now I'm at 32. So we're going to read quickly. Let's do a page and then commentary. That's what we'll do. A remarkable failure by Obama and the Democrats was their inability to take up the programs advocated by grassroots uprisings such as those in Wisconsin or Occupy Wall Street's national actions in 2011, which signaled the younger public's disgust with the status quo and demand for progressive policies. Failing to join the occupiers on the ramparts contributed further for the Democrats' loss of legitimacy. And on the other side, the occupiers' disinterest in politics, perhaps due to the lack of spirit shown by the Dems, proved fatal to advancing their agenda against inequality more concretely. Imagine, if you will, in the following fictional narrative, how plutocrats and perhaps the Democrats themselves viewed the Occupy movement. I'm not going to fucking get into this. I'm going to do these 2 paragraphs first, and then I'll do this whole fake conversation. Like, what do you want to be, Ralph? Come on. I want to be president. I want to affect change. If there's any ego in this, is to come up with my own political theory, which stands the test of time and wedges little Shazbar back into the history books among a bunch of other dumbasses. But what do you want? You want to be a fucking writer? This is kind of flowery. It's flowery to introduce a fake conversation or to get your points across. But I guess, I don't know, that's your writing style. Is you know what you want to say, and then you fit it into your narrative structure. So let's pull this out. What are you trying to say? Because I got my own narrative structure. I don't need your fucking story times or Ralph. So, remarkable failure by Obama's inability to take up the program. And also, once you start to get someone's style, I just look for the verbs and the nouns, and I just ignore the rest of the shit. Okay, they failed. They didn't take up the grassroots uprisings, the programs. And that's what is he saying? How is he defining these things? Grassroots uprisings is what he calls us. I was with Occupy Wall Street myself. And he says we have programs, such as those in Wisconsin, Occupy Wall Street. But that was the whole thing, is we weren't trying to be Republican or Democrat. We were trying to be non-party with an anti-corporatist platform, pretty much, which we were starting to vocalize. We were getting into, it's like, what are your demands? We were figuring out our organizational structure first. And then we were sabotaged before we could form a long-term organizational structure. I thought we were going to be like World Can't Wait, or like I thought we were going the non-profit route, but we had enough saboteurs, I think, within that I experienced, who funneled all the money out before we can actually consolidate it under actual leadership. Anyways, Ralph Nader is going to have his opinions. Our disgust in the status quo and demands for progressive policies. I see how I said anti-corporatist. No matter how much you argue about Occupy Wall Street and what we presented, we all hated the fucking Citizens United. We all hated Monsanto whenever he said fuck Monsanto. People yell out. We had a lot of different ideas about what should be our priority, but we all acknowledge that corporations have too much control in our politics. But he says we are the status quo and demands for progressive policies. He's trying to shoot a horse on us into his argument. And then he says that we're on the ramparts. So again, the French Revolution. It's like, no, dude, I'm not. We're out there trying to meet other people, talk about shit that's outside the dominant narratives. Is the biggest part of Occupy Wall Street. If you ask anyone who went to any of the Occupy, it's probably the conversations and the people they met and the type of connections they were making. And that's what blew your mind. It's like we're all stuck in our bubble, and it was a place to actually grow politically and personally outside of the dominant culture. And we created our own culture. People, again, the tattoos and this and that. And so he says we're on the rampant parts. It's like, no, I don't want to be a part of your revolution. I want to be a part of your revolutionary language. I don't want an excuse for the Jacobins to come in later on and all the other shit that comes with this fucking romantic revolutionary bullshit. I've dealt with it. I fucked those girls. I've had those conversations. I had those fucking hostels that kicked me out because I didn't want to go along with their bullshit. I don't want to. Ramparts is a loaded word. Fuck you and take it back. I'm not on anyone's ramparts. I'm out here just doing shaz, and we're trying to contribute to a better world, whatever that means. I don't think it means bloody revolution. If I fucking fight you, it's not going to be on a rampart. It's going to be according to military science and the latest fucking strategy and techniques of ramparts. You want us to fucking fight a modern war with fucking 17th century tactics? Come on, dude. 18th century, whatever. Just the language. It's like people don't listen to the words that they use. We're on the ramparts. It's because you get this, like he says, founding fathers is another one that bugs me. We don't need that language anymore. It's kind of holding us back. It's limiting our creativity and our ability to actually address the issues that we're facing. That's enough for me. Oh, and then he says, the occupiers' disinterest in politics. We didn't trust y'all. We didn't trust anyone in politics. Maybe if we had created our own thing. We were still working on that. We were working on this seems to happen in history, is when you have an actual native democratic movement from the ground up, from affected people to try to control their own destiny because they've been disenfranchised, so they get together. The natural organizations will become direct democratic. You have to grow out of that to representative democratic, but at first everyone wants a say. And the struggles that seem to happen anthropologically when you're at that point is that you're going to get a split between the pure anarchists who don't believe in democracy at all. And if we can't all just manage ourselves, then they're just going to break off and say, well, fuck it, I'm an anarchist and I don't agree with any authority anyways, so fucking fight me. Those are the guys that are the separatists, like even the communists sometimes, but they go off and they just say, we're going to create our own rules. But not even, so the communists are another part. They're saying that, well, we want to agree on the authority. We want to create the authority. We need a central authority. So anyways, basically, at the first gathering of a natural democratic impulse within people who have been disenfranchised, it seems like you're going to have debates over authority and the authority of the central identity which you're creating, which now you're going to ask everyone to submit to. You're going to vest it with authority to accept and expel people from the group. So that's like the corporation, like the corporate body, the collective social body. That's the stage we were at in Occupy Wall Street. We were gathering together. We were wondering. The thing is, since that direct democracy consensus-based conversation everyone was kind of hooked with, that's what happened. It drew people in like sugar. It drew me, and you felt it in your chest. You're like, wow, a productive social discussion. When it was good, those general assemblies, it was good. You actually felt like you bought into a group identity, and you've accomplished something as a group, logically. Everyone, Max Bean, I wrote about him, he wrote about it. It was an infectious energy because it's a way of communicating and participating socially that we don't currently have or develop. It's like someone who doesn't walk, going on a walk and realizing how just natural it is to you. Or swimming, it's a natural human function. Or I don't know, maybe there's something else. But it's like doing something that, exploring a part of you that is a natural part of you that you've never explored before. But that's what democratic, efficient social organizing is. And direct democracy at its best can be like that. So we were at that point where we were like, we had to decide what our values were so we could create an identity people would buy into. And there's too much antagonism, purposeful sabotage, and then also the resources that we have were being squandered, and also those were certain people were getting control over that. I asked to audit the books, and I got some heat for that. I was trying to get everything on the same page, turn it into a nonprofit. But they say disinterest in politics, perhaps due to the lack of spirit shown by the Dems, proved fatal. It's like, no, dude, we've decided that we don't want any part of the Democratic or Republican Party. The current generations have decided that because of your track record. So stop pushing that shit. Anyways, let's go on into his fucking fake-ass letter. I wasted enough time on this. Stetson J. Bradford III met up with his fellow CEO, F. Reginald Lawless, for a brow-to-brow lunch at the Penthouse Reverie Room, high above Wall and Broad Streets in New York. As charter members of the 40-year Corporate Supremes Club, they had serious business to discuss before Thanksgiving weekend in 2011. And that's when I arrived at Occupy Wall Street, November 1st, 2011. Topic numero uno is the Occupy Wall Street movement and its sister occurrences all around the country, the precursor to the giant people's upheaval that they and their brethren had feared ever since Wall Street's collapsed. Wall Street collapsed the American economy in 2008 and sent the bill to the taxpayers. So, they're on Wall and Broad in New York, high above Wall and Broad at the Penthouse Reverie Room. I need to look that up if it's a real place. All of this fucking like rich shaming doesn't really affect me. We want like inequality to not be so terrible in society, but if you work hard and you're smart and get the fucking, yeah, there has to be some meritocratic element to our economy. So I'm like, I like fancy places. I want to make some money. I'll check that out. What? The fucking Penthouse Reverie Room. It's on the bucket list. But yeah, topics are they, and he says sister occurrences. There are thousands, dude, all across the United States. It's a shame. That's what he's talking about. How the Democrats and everyone fucking didn't pay attention to us. What about history? What about the larger picture of the fact that that could just be erased from history? That big of a fucking action. Over their large whiskey sour savored prior to consuming the lobster lunch. Like, why is the rich shaming? It's like, fuck it. I can't have a whiskey shower or a lobster lunch. Come on, dude. Let's make arguments based off of logic, not based off of emotional triggering. You're below 10% right now, Ralph. They shared their innermost thoughts in nearly whispered tones under grave visages. Bradford. I'm worried, Reg. This could be a big one all of us have been dreading. It's always the ruffians and the demagogues who are the vanguard. Remember the sacking of the Bastille? He really likes the fucking French Revolution. Lawless. I beg to differ, Stet. It's always the middle class that raises the banner of revolt, at least in the past couple centuries. These people down at... Oh, so now we're talking history. It's like Jerry picking bits of history to support his cultural argument about the French Revolution. And he's like basically paint by numbers, emotional triggering of the cultural left and cultural progressives. But we're not really going to look at like over centuries. And history is like, you gotta justify, contextualize some of that stuff. Come on, dude. Then let's talk about imperialism. If we're talking about middle class raising the banner of revolt over a couple centuries, what are the operating systems here over those couple centuries? Imperialism. And then those drive the domestic and foreign policy and the interaction between the two. We are out in the park mostly for the war. That's the main biggest bullshit everyone sees still. If you talk to anyone down there, these people down in Zuccotti Park aren't relatable to the majority of people. What with their sanitation problems and the worsening influx of the homeless and vagrant crowd in their public spaces. But I mean, I understand that these are characters that Ralph Nader just made up. But does he have to include like this homeless and vagrant, like that type of bashing? I know I'm a little sensitive maybe because I'm part of the homeless right now. But it's just, we're not relatable with the sanitation and the worst. Are we though? People are coming down there to visit us and talk to us all the time. And sanitation problems, you're just pulling that out of the fucking, this is a problem with you and your newspaper clippings. You're just relying on that. That's what we're getting a lot of bad press in order to shut us down. So they'd say we have sanitation problems, this and that, but it was a decent squat. It was like we kept ourselves relatively clean. We had a sanitation team that would go around and clean stuff up in our public places. What do you mean? It was a park with a lot of tents, and we had little streets and corridors
our public places. We did have public common grounds where we would speak and have a general assembly. It wasn't self-organized practice in anarchy beyond the government, where we set up in a public place. A lot of people decided to start living together to talk about to have a political discussion. That's nascent democracy. Oppressed people coming out saying, let's start organizing ourselves. And that's where we got squashed. So I think the most interesting conversation would be like, that's interesting that happens naturally, which is supportive of anarchist theory, that we need less authority to allow the natural expression of self-governance to come out. But I mean, that's my interpretation of it. But he's saying, what is he saying? Well, he's characterizing us. Bradford, maybe so, but look at the daily mass media coverage of these people calling themselves the 99%. I've never seen anything like it. The TV and newspaper reports on these encampments everywhere. I mean, like, that media coverage was mostly shitty. They didn't really fucking talk to us. They made fun of us for the most part. Also, the polls show that they have more support for their message against inequality than the Tea Partiers did for their push. Recall what Abraham Lincoln said about what can be done with public sentiment. So this is like Ralph Nader has like a list of quotes, a list of facts, and he's shoehorning them into this narrative. I've read like this, Ralph. I understand how you do it. You're like, that Lincoln quote was just like sitting there. He was like, I think I put it in in Bradford's voice. Also, you can't bring up the Tea Partiers as like a legitimate public fucking protest movement. The call went out by Adbusters, the magazine. But I came out from California. So many people just came out because of the call. Tea Partiers is astroturfed, funded by the Koch brothers. That came out already. They already proved that. Their money came from corporate sources. The Soros Foundation was involved with us. We used their corporation as an umbrella to collect donations. And I think there were a handful of people in the park who were fucking working for them, working for trade unions. But we were as a spontaneous. That's what Tea Partiers, you saw stuff in some cities. You can't even compare that to how many cities Occupy happened. How many spontaneous protests and the level of violence, the level of mass confrontation with the cops. You can't equivocate. That's interesting. Ralph Nader's not the person to talk about the Occupy protest movement. Lawless. Let me calm you, Stet. We know from our disheveled infiltrators what is going on in these encampments, except maybe small ones like in Little Niles, Michigan. It's our sort of jobs program, barring some flashy provocation caught on video, like a sneering Wall Street trader kicking a child beggar in the gutter. What is this fucking Dickinsonian fucking literature? Is like, there's so much important structural shit at the highest levels of society we should be talking about and trying to solve. And he's talking about Wall Street traders kicking a child beggar into the gutter. Come on, dude. This is now becoming an excuse to just paint emotional images to trigger people. The occupiers will soon be frozen out of the public consciousness by both the coming winter and a bored media. Yeah, I lasted until March. Yeah, February or March. Yeah, I lasted through February to March. So no, we lasted through the winter. I mean, this time around, was this fucking 8 years later? Yeah, 8 years later. Wow. No, 7 years later. I'm in New York. I'm homeless. I fucking created and then given up a real estate company. I made $500,000. I lived a lot. Had a lot of relationships, a lot of living, a lot of experience, a lot of interactions, business interactions, other stuff. That's interesting to think back to that. Yeah, no, we survived. Look, and you get used to the cold. Once you get shelter, it's easier. Now I'm on retirement. Fucking first time I did this with Occupy Wall Street, we had squats, we had churches. Bradford, why do you say this? They must be very determined to stay and sleep in these uncomfortable parks night and day, setting up tables for first aid, legal aid, and even the library. He had like a list of things that were in Occupy Wall Street, and he just fit them into this fucking paragraph. You know, libraries with radical materials have historically been dangerous influences on the multitudes. That's why Shaz is all about the libraries, but it's like, what is your worldview, Ralph Nader? Are you a radical librarian? Are you it's hard for me to tell what this dude believes in.
Time out, Stet. Let me show you why they are here today and why they will most likely be gone tomorrow. Do they have leaders? No, they proudly reject leaders and even the very trait of leadership. Show me a successful movement or business or union drive. I'll show you leaders. It can't happen without leaders to give form and direction over time, no matter how unpleasant they may be. See, so this is where I decided to do these videos, and I was like, well, I need to slow down and unpack this. Because what are you arguing here, Ralph? You're saying through the words of these two business people dining high above Wall Street, who possibly are willing to kick a child beggar. Like, first of all, I'm in the homeless shelter. I'm getting 3 square meals, plus I'm getting $200 a month. Food stamps are $150, whatever the fuck. I'm spending it like crazy. It's free money. I buy a lot of bullshit. The mac and cheese is good though. But we don't have child beggars. We have so many social services. We should do more. What I'm noticing is that the food and the beds are there, but the spirit isn't. So maybe we need to pay these people more. We have to get more of the latest like psychology or sociology involved. I just feel lost, and I think of a lot of other people, but then I'm trying to be lost because I'm writing and reading and thinking. But yeah, I fucking like found myself lost in the homeless. So anyways, there's not child beggars out there. And people fucking have a more complex view of human nature, where there's not just an evil traitor. That's what, when I read the book, I wouldn't even be able to take it this deep. But when you stop and you actually think and you speak, you realize how shallow the conversations are by which these people make their name. This is Ralph Nader. This is his brand. He comes out with like a couple of these books a year. And you have nothing to tell me. And so what are you telling me right here? Do we have leaders? No, we proudly reject leaders, even the very trait. So he's basically, the business person is saying that every movement, business, union drive has leaders, no matter how unpleasant they're needed. But should we take these business guys' advice? It's like you use your opposition to defend your point, which is a really weird thing to do. It makes you seem not sincere that they're the opposition, or not sincere enough to come up with your own defenses for your own points. So you're like, look at Chevron at least does this. Walmart even has found out that increasing environmental standards or practices are good for the bottom line, and he's like, why? So we can all shop more at Walmart? We're not interfering with the cause and effect of why Walmart is so massive that some people can't afford not to shop with them. Amazon's becoming the same way. You don't want a market captured by a fucking hegemon. That's not free market practices or ideals. Trust busting would be something he could bring up. Maybe he's going to bring it up later on. But then how can he use Walmart to defend a point over here and then bring up busting it up as a trust over here? Or at least questioning them when he brought up Walmart being on supposedly private. It's like, is that a trigger towards socialism, communism? Let's just bring up a very specific injustice, which is that municipalities are forced to monetize as much of their land use policies as possible to pay the debt that they're fed from Wall Street. That's an argument you can make with your current values and your current characters, but it would be a more complex argument. I wonder why he doesn't make it. So again, he's going into that pattern here where he's wanting us to trust the wisdom of these people who would kick a child beggar. So he's saying, so it's like, he says, show me a successful movement, business union drive, I'll show you leaders. But why do I trust these guys? What if the distributive direct democracy practice that we were practicing in Occupy Wall Street, what if that was our one good? Because that was the framework upon which we can build a more inclusive, responsive system. And because the problem is that the system isn't responsive. But that's not what people like Ralph Nader believe. They believe that the problem is you just don't have the right rulers with the right rules in place. If only I'm in charge, everything will be different, is what Ralph Nader keeps saying every time he runs for president. If only I'm in charge, everything will be different. Only if I'm in charge. If you have the winning argument, anyone should be able to execute it, right? They just have to have the communication skills and the this and the that. But it's about what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is build more equitable systems. We're not trying to imitate old bureaucracies with new bureaucracies with just a new label on them, like neo or new. So, and then he says, no matter how unpleasant You can't, like, you're not even going to defend this, Ralph. You're just going to drop it out there. Is that you can't have anything happen without leaders, even if you don't like those leaders. Doesn't sound very democratic. What are your values then? Your values are subservience to authority. That's what you basically said, that without firm authority structures in place, you can't have progress. I think that's demonstrably false. That goes against the ethics of anarchism, and also that goes against current business culture, which is currently flattening pyramids to provide more horizontals, as David Graeber would say. Horizontals. He just drops that into a paragraph. The fucking slippery shit is that. Come on, Ralph. Bradford. And you don't get mad at people because these might be his blind spots, his subconscious. He has an inner desire for authority. He might be a religious dude. I think so. I think he relies on like some sort of religious tradition. And those usually push you towards authoritarian thoughts. But we have to edit ourselves, audit ourselves. These might not be malicious patterns in society. They might just be a reflection of our lowered state of consciousness, and so we just have to mature individually and as a society, is a non-hippie way of saying it. You got to increase your consciousness, dude. Elevate your consciousness to a high state of being. Just grow the fuck up, Ralph. The problem in the world isn't a lack of leaders. It's a fucking overabundance of bullshit. I'm counting you among the bullshit right now. Bradford, you're right up to a point. But a mob doesn't have to have leaders. It just has to have emotion, motive, a target, and a sudden jolt or spark that can come anywhere. I mean, that's what you're giving us. You're giving us emotions, motives, and a target. You're not giving us reason. You use mob logic yourself, Ralph. Lawless. With modern high-tech crowd controls, mobs can be spotted very early with corner surveillance cameras and dispersed in 100 ways. Our good police, public and private, get tremendous adrenaline bursts in the face of advanced mobs. Is this the best way to describe it? Just say they beat our ass, dude. In fact, why don't you bring up the leaked FBI documents that the fusion centers were allowing the government to use the George Bush passed Patriot Act laws and the newly funded and fucking militarized Homeland Security to coordinate between local police, local corporations, or local police, large corporations, and the federal government. So the large corporations are doing their own private detail on security, threat assessments, then coordinating with the police for actions. And in the report that I read, if you do search, Control F, and look up snipers, that the corporations seem to have offered snipers of targeted leadership individuals, because we have leadership. You can't have any organization without leadership. So we have people in charge of housing, in charge of food. I was trying to get the finance to audit their books. You can't. It's not like we didn't have leadership. We were trying to create it as democratic, directly democratic as possible, because it was an anarchist organization stewarded by anarchists based on anarchist principles. Any positive grew out of that. Any negative was a betrayal of those principles. Anarchist principles being supposedly the natural impulse of human beings to organize themselves without authority, which is what we attempted. And then we were, until the money was taken away and we were instigated out of being able to organize anymore. But anyways, yeah, why don't you just bring up, like, these documents have been linked and they're out there in the public, but they're not, it's not in a newspaper. And Ralph Nader makes his worldview based off of the newspaper. So if you want to manipulate a person like Ralph Nader, you just have to control the mainstream news media narratives. That's what it is. You want to base your world view, I think, not on the media, but on first-hand sources, and then you construct your worldview, and then you research it, and then you fit the media and everything else into an ongoing discussion based off of facts. And that's what we're trying to do: create a narrative of a reality that's based in reality. But instead, there's more. Occupy has no agenda or program that millions can relate to. Sure, inequality, I just said it, anti-corporatist. Corporations have too much control over political apparatus. And then all the questions were like, all right, should we concentrate on this or that? Election reform was like one of our surefire things. But pretty much it was all like, just fuck the corporate bullshit, fuck the corporate media, which is why the media reported us poorly. Because no one in the camp thought we were getting a fair shake in the media. Occupy has no agenda or program that millions can relate to. Sure, inequality, 99% makes a good slogan because people believe it to be true. After all, don't we, really? But without either a religious fervor or some kind of ideological ism, both out of tune with the times, all they're left with are actual reforms for which they have little interest or patience. This is where they're really missing the boat on the vehicle of change, because they detest politics. Yeah, because what, you want to organize all of the energy and effort of Occupy Wall Street into raising the minimum wage, which is what a lot of people were doing, actually. A lot of people were actually, like, saying, all right, let's prioritize this, let's do election reform, let's do minimum wage, but, like, the organization itself was a larger experiment than just pushing through a policy. It was an experiment in a new form of organizing politically, whether it should become a nonprofit or a political party or something. It was being able to plug in and communicate that way was the magic of it. But you'd have to have participated in it to understand. It's like politics don't work right now, so we need... What is politics? But a system in order to matriculate information from those affected from the decisions to the decision makers themselves. Direct democracy is where they're the same person, that everyone affected is a decision maker. And as we get further and further removed through representation, we want to make sure just that chain is connected. So we should work on that. That seems pretty obvious. Our democracy is broken. Let's fix our democracy. Ralph Nader is like, our democracy is broken. Let's treat the symptoms of the problem by getting you to buy into a broken system. I don't trust anyone who's trying to get me to buy into a broken system. And he's saying, oh, we should have had leaders that the broken system could have co-opted. And now he's saying we had no agenda. We had so many working groups. We had like hundreds of... I started the farms working group, Occupy the Food System. We had a farm that was going to be donated to us. And then we had a collection of like up to 12 farms people were going to visit and work on and bring food back for the movement. We didn't have like a strong central base identifying identity. We just, things broke up. And the first arguments about money and other stuff, we didn't have a unifying core. We were like all kind of, I think, eventually deciding Occupy was bullshit. But, so he's saying religious fervor or ideological ism. All we're left with are actual reforms for which they have little interest or patience. Reforms, like why are you even using that word? Or let's just end war and get fucking our democracy back from corporate interest. How hard is it? Where's the money going? It's going to the war. Benefits corporations, literally trading lives for corporate profit. Let's end that one. That seems like the first one. We're missing the boat in vehicle of change. He wants us to get involved in the fucking current democratic system, which is spinning the wheels doing nothing. We detest politics for a reason, Ralph Nader. What do you mean? Stet, why do you think our higher class spends so much money and time and influence on Congress? Because that's where the desired action or inaction resides in our governmental system. Arouse Congress and we get tax breaks, subsidies, bailouts, contracts, giveaways, and little enforcement of laws against us. Freeze Congress and the masses get nothing. Or worse, they get rollbacks of protections for their economic well-being, health, safety, children, and the shrieking pay, jobs, and pensions. So it's like, it's not like there are people saying let's create utopia and let's just not practice in society or politics. But we would have eventually become a third Democratic Party or something. People were saying we have to endorse Obama, we have to endorse the Democrats. That's where everyone was against, because it was an organization of people beyond political identities. Because shit was so bullshit overtly, we could all get together and just say, look, things need to change. And that was the first organizing principle of our identity. And so you say, no, we should be like the rich, and we can't outgun them. You just proved just a little bit of logic right here. Our class spends so much money and time and influence in Congress. So you want us to spend more money than them? We can't do that. And they have the money, so they have already organizations they've created. It seems like political guerrilla warfare, what we're doing right here, out in the public, is our best option, playing to our strengths. We have people, and we have ideas. Let's organize those. We don't need money, right? And then the money was coming in. We had $750,000. But we had to basically continue the conversation that we were stopped from continuing. Physically, we were beat by the police. And then the instigators kept pushing us off the tracks to other shit. So by detesting politics, they avoid surrounding members of Congress at their offices back home or Capitol Hill. They avoid the single victory that could be theirs in this election year. and that is raising the federal minimum wage to over $10 per hour to where it was inflation adjusted in 1968. That's your stump speech. And I'm talking about bigger structural issues. And you're over here just being like, let's focus all of our energy, all of our it's like all of our manpower on one small little, on this one nail that you're so fascinated with. And that doesn't count. This is how you write a book this long and say basically nothing or not much. This book could fit on a postcard. And that doesn't count the double worker productivity since that time and the resultant wealth, which our class has regularly appropriated for our coffers. What do you mean class? So you're saying if I was sitting up there and I was born poor, relatively poor, and I was sitting up there, then am I a part of their class? Is it what I'm born into, or is it what I'm earning? And then, like, why don't you just come out and say it? You don't want, like, that's what, I agree, there's an inequality ceiling, and we want to make sure that those who are getting the most out of society aren't hoarding it, so we could redistribute some of the top with progressive taxes. But, like, why do we got to vilify them? I hope to go back to the top of society just because I think I have a good brain and I like to work. I like to make money. I'm probably going to be good for it with it, and I don't mind if the government takes a larger percentage. I get the logic, and I'm along for that. I don't like the emotional triggering of pitting people against people. So, our class and this and that. It's like, I don't know, dude, there's some hippie rich people, come on. So anyways, Stet, over 70% of people polled support keeping the minimum. It's like all the library systems that happened from Rockefeller, or what's his name, or Carnegie. Yeah, Carnegie was a library dude. It's like there's good and there's bad. People are complicated. Don't vilify people just because they made it, though, because you might lose some good wisdom from those people. Over 70% of people polled support keeping minimum wage raises current with inflation. Hundreds of groups influence want it. They're at least on record, like the AFL-CIO. It's just he's saying a bunch of shit they said already. But none are on the ramparts back to the French Revolution. Like this is like, it's just interesting. This is supposed to be a mature person in the world having a mature discussion, and he's just picking out. It's like religious dogma. He picks out a little bit of.
We are going to get to our targeted page count today, and it is
40 whatever. We're on 35. So we're gonna do a good 12 pages. Won't be good. Alright, anyways, where are we at? My name is Shaz Barbaric, and we're reading Ralph Nader's To the Ramparts. Perhaps if I sit down, I can be more relaxed. Let's try to do this. I tried to do this yesterday. It didn't really work out. Put it somewhere where, oh, there we go. There's no smoking. No smoking in here. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that. I can sit down and I can look at it. It's not the most flattering, but it is a view. I like this. Alright, I'll hold the book up like this. It's not really working. What about like this? Like this. We'll do it like this. I'm taking up way too much on the screen, and I apologize for that. But the phone is now in the handle of the door, facing back, so that way I can sit down and give myself a little break. It's been like an hour and a half standing up. So, alright, ready? Let's go. Where is this guy at? Kicking a child bigger, detesting politics. Oh, he's saying, yeah, let's raise minimum wage. Occupy Wall Street should make the whole thing about raising minimum wage. Take all of that fucking thousands of cities and people, political and energy all around the world. That's what he's kind of selling this short. This is a global protest movement against the dominant power structures that have been influencing our world for the last generation. This is tied back to the WTO protests in Seattle. And before that, this is tied back to the enclosure of the commons and the formalization of the nation-state system and the capitalist system of industry and forcing labor in order to sell itself. We have to talk about stuff like that. And then he says, no, we should just, all those people in the street, let's get them to fucking... That's where it starts to feel malicious. And he's like, let's take all of that political capital and all that energy, all that historic energy about resources and the relationship and authority between labor and capital.
those questions and conversations we're having, let's just increase the minimum wage. It's like, come on, Ralph, is that where, that's your imagination? That's going to lead us to, that's led us to the world that we have right now. It's not inspiring. Come on, Ralph, come on. But none are on the ramparts, like a long train ready to go without fuel. Guess who can supply the fiery energy? The occupiers. You want me to be a fag in your bonfire. You want me to be fuel. You just asked us to be fuel in your fucking little quest to get. The minimum wage is great. I'm just saying that we're fucking, it's like deck chairs on the Titanic. We're going down because of our imperial conquest, ravaging natural resources, changing of the fucking weather patterns of the earth. And you want to turn our whole protest movement into fuels for your little choo-choo minimum wage train. They can galvanize all the groups to pour it on their members of Congress. Imagine gratitude of 30 million workers who are now, and then the way he argues, he's like, 30 million workers now making $10 per hour for their families. Imagine victory in an ocean. It's basically like, what if I was a corporatist? I was like, yo, we could buy off all these protesters by raising the minimum wage. That's just a move, dude. It's just a fucking, you're talking about like a pawn move. Like, that's not much sweat off of their backs. And that's not we're not moving the dial. So why are we spending so much emotional capital? So many pages of your own book on this shit. Just say it, be done. But what's the bigger framework? What world do we live in? What's the more important stuff that affected us the most? And then let's move from there to the specifics. We have to have a hierarchy. Time and energy are limited. Once the masses really get moving, as you know, they're hard to stop. And then the fucking framing of this between two nefarious fucking finance people high above Wall Street, when most of them are in Midtown anyways. Come on. Bradford, well, why don't they fight for all those tens of billions of dollars that can go into the pockets of those people now earning between $7.25 and $10 per hour? Seems obvious. And it's not going to affect our business. Our golfing buddies make several thousands of dollars an hour, but none of our employees make less than $10, except maybe the janitors in our office. When you talk about that much money being made, like the thousands of dollars an hour, when I was doing real estate commissions, I would divide out the work by the hourly, and it'd get over $100, $200 an hour on the good times. So it's like when you're doing commission, contract type work, where you're taking high risk, high rewards, how are we going to limit those guys' rewards? If you're able to gamble the most and take on the risk, a lot of people can't make it. Others, it just gets tricky. And this is a simplification of a tricky issue, which talks about creating. If you believe in market dynamics, you have to kind of respect them. Well, and then also that's why when you have a values discussion, you say, I want to respect market dynamics, which seem to have a life of their own for the benefit of all people involved. When they're regulated, it seems like the most efficient way, markets to distribute goods. But we just have to put boundaries in place so that way they don't become predatory. I think that's so far my idea. No one's really proven to me that markets aren't useful or aren't natural expressions of human behavior. But that's what it is. Talking about values, I could be like, well, I care about natural expressions of human behavior, devolving authority to the minimum while protecting commons. And now I could address problems with those values in mind. Ralph Nader doesn't think like that. He thinks like the Spanish Inquisition, and that there's a right answer. And then we torture our audience until they produce that right answer. Torture us with shitty writing, shitty fucking analogies, and then he just shoehorns his facts back in. But we already made the assumption at the very beginning. Let us never forget that the Democrats are inherently better than the Republicans. And then his only argument for that so far that I gathered was that, well, at least they tolerated the wage, the unions. It's like there's a lot of assumed assumptions, and it's like dogma. There's assumed beliefs, then the whole argument is made around to support those assumed beliefs. And so now he's dragged to Occupy Wall Street, actual history that I've lived, into his assumed beliefs and shitty-ass arguments. I'll tell you what, but pardon the reputation. The Occupy people are increasingly bickering amongst themselves in an imploding way while dispiriting themselves with endless democratic assemblies where even majority rule is out.
They do not want leaders or real-life agenda that needs the raising of funds. They are tussling with anarchists and hired provocateurs, and they disdain any discipline, much less paying full-time organizers. One might uncharitably say they are not serious about anything described as victory, even one right in their hands that would bring them great admiration. You almost make me feel sorry for them. They could be our sons or daughters, Reg. They mean well. It's like, okay, so what type of fucking shade is this, Ralph? Come on. I'm an occupier. I was an Occupy Wall Street. You're talking to me now. And you, I think, criticized the movement I was a part of. And you framed it in a way where it's two rich people talking, so let's take on that first. Your framing is ridiculous. It's not believable. It's forced. This isn't how people talk. This isn't how modern business is conducted. This is it. And then, so it's a very loose, sloppy framing just to put your words in their mouths. I do that myself, so I don't fault you for that. I'm just calling you out. That's kind of a cop-out, a bullshit move. So that being said, within the mouths of these fictional people, I assume you're putting what you actually believe is your criticism on us, which is an interesting thing to do, because now I'm going to attack these people, which you patently vilified. These aren't good characters that you put your opinion into. How much of it is their opinion? How much of it is yours? And this also makes me wonder if at heart, do you have this contrast? The fact that you make such shitty little characters, is this what you have in your heart? Or is your internal struggle one between the wealth that you accumulate through your Ralph Nader brand and then the guilt you have for having that wealth and having that lifestyle, which then now you put out there as these characters, as this type of simplification of the world might be how you also simplify when you look in the mirror and justify and we all have to do it at the end of the day. Have come to Jesus moment where we look at God or we look at ourselves or whatever we believe in. Either accept that we're living a good life and we think we're a good man, or accept that we're a bad man, or there's no such thing as good and evil, or whatever. But you look at what story you're living and who you are, and then that story, I think, is also what you reflect outwards as your values. So by you showing these simplistic people at the top, very flimsily sketched out, and then inserting into their mouths your opinion, it makes me think what type of conversations are going around in your own head to justify other actions in your life. I know it's not based on reality because I was there. So when you say we don't want leaders or real life agenda, how do we feed 3,000 people a day? We had a kitchen crew, and in that kitchen crew there was a point person, and the other people responsible. We did not want to be involved as Republicans or Democrats. We are very hesitant to be involved in a bullshit process, which is taken over by corporations, which at the beginning of your book you said is a given that we have to, and you didn't provide much support for that. But that's not true. We couldn't have organized what we did without leaders. We have leaders. We try to make it as correct, democratic as possible. I kicked the leader out of a church. There's a church with homeless people living in it. Occupy was paying like the pastor $1 or $3 a night for all of us. I feel this guy was being an instigator. He didn't post proper security. Some guys came in from Jersey. I got all of this after the fact. I wasn't there that night. They came in with beers. They partied. They dumped over a baptismal with some sacred water from Jordan. Just Google that. Occupiers, sacred water, church, probably going to hell. Just Google all that shit. There's a bunch of articles about us. A girl told me, she was like, this place is kind of, I think, it's being sabotaged for us, and we're going to be kicked on the street. I showed up, found out who was in charge. I told him, I was like, dude, you didn't put security on the door? Come on, dude. Because, like, I'm a normal dude. I've done some shit. So I'm just like, I'm not intimidated by most people. So I was like, whatever, whether it was a fuck up or not, you got to go, man. We need new leadership here. We need, like, you guys are on very thin ice. We need people who are going to actually secure the premises. That's basic number one. If you're in charge of the leadership of something like that church, make sure you post guards at night. Make sure people are coming in and out. We know who they are. That's rule number one of anything. Keep the fucking, monitor the shit. We're being entrusted with this church. We should be more secure than a hotel or a fucking, because it's like, we were sleeping on the pews and stuff. It was a historic church. Anyways, that was a leader. A leader I thought wasn't living up to the standards of the people who entrusted him to fucking be the liaison between the church and the people. We had a meeting that night. I laid out my case. Look, this happened on his watch. Whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, we need new leadership in here. Someone who's going to actually make sure we have security.
I didn't even propose I wanted to do it because I'm not really big on getting positions of power. Just all my life, when I look back in my life, I'd rather just chill and watch. But when something needs to be done, so that needed to be done.
So Ralph, we had leaders, we had all the dynamics that going into that. How many times did you come to our General Assembly and practice? We just wanted the people in the protest to always retain the power to then invest our power into authorities. I started Occupy Farms, but I had to go to the General Assembly and say, this is who we are. I went there with a group of like 10, 15 people. I said we need $3,500 to fund our initial meetings and our car trips, and we laid it all out. We laid out our values, and they voted us in. It was a little bit harsh, and the provocateurs made it very hard to do that, especially since we were doing it in a public place. You love the French Revolution, Ralph. So think back to that. They had their organizations where they would speak, but they had like the racquetball courts and like places on the grounds of the palace. We were doing it in a public place where any fucking person can come in and shout. So they said, anyways, this simplistic narrative had to be addressed. You've been corrected now. We had leaders. We had a real life agenda. We were just going slowly and surely because it seems like in the process of setting the current democratic systems up that you want us to buy into, a lot of bullshit crept in. So we're just looking very closely as we create new political tools to use. And we were sabotaged before we could continue working on those. I know personally because I tried to get them to audit the book so we could start becoming like a nonprofit. The culture was captured. And now I don't know who owns those brands or those websites or this and that. But I think Black Lives Matter suffered the same fate. It was probably more corporate to begin with. Me Too, too. Me Too is a corporation, too. But those are ones that you would approve of, I guess, because they have a leadership. And they have the ability to buy into these shitty little fucking movements that you envision. The height of your imagination is raising minimum wage, which it should happen and it will happen, but you want to conform the world to the priorities of Ralph Nader. I don't think that's genuine let's have a conversation. Let's have a real, honest, open, democratic conversation about what we should prioritize. That's speaking about values, and that's why I can't be wrong. Because I don't have anything to offer other than a request for a conversation with other people who also feel disenfranchised, so we could all figure out what the fuck's going on. An audit. All I offer is an audit, but a cultural audit as well as an audit of our democratic systems. That's enough about that. Lawless. Let them mean well. I'll give them that any day, so long as they don't mean much more of anything else. How about another whiskey sour, Stet, before we go to those credit default swaps in Greece? Cheers, Reg. Cheers. So I'm supposed to believe that you understand the complications of. I don't know. Did you watch The Big Short, Ralph? Do you understand what credit default swaps are? How all that happened? Are we going to talk about markets now? Unregulated insurance markets. Are we gonna balance it out by talking about what is good about the modern finance system? We could talk about the FIRE economy, finance, insurance, real estate, and how they're a greater percentage of our overall economy than back in the past. That would be more substantive discussion. Let's talk about the economic trends that led us to them having so much power in our economy. But see, even that would be a better discussion than just minimum wage, which is a symptom of all this shit, right? That was horrible to read, Ralph. Those liberal Democrats who ignored Occupy had the excuses, which to them seemed like good ones, that Occupy's agenda was unclear, or had no representatives to talk to. So yeah, I didn't like it when I first read this. He said that they had an excuse to not take it seriously. The occupiers had no reason not to listen hard to concerned citizens and activist groups that came forward with valuable proposals and fact-based discussions of pressing issues. We listened to citizens and activist groups. Everyone addressed us every single night at a General Assembly. There'd be a new group trying to do solidarity. That's how a lot of our working groups got started. We had Occupy the Hood. We had a financial working group working on the economy. It was direct democracy in action. How can you... So I'm really upset at Ben Rhodes, who was the little bitch boy for Obama, writing the book The World as It Is, where they don't even mention Occupy Wall Street. But then Ralph Nader just said that we had no reason not to listen. So we did listen to concerned citizens and activist groups. What we didn't do was support the Democratic or Republican Party. And that's what you're saying by not buying into the
creating easily identifiable leaders that then can be co-opted. We have leaders, but we have leaders of our organization to keep our organization running. We didn't have leaders who could speak for us. We kept our messaging out of centralized hands as long as possible until finally the whole organization was co-opted, the money was pushed out or consolidated. The public money was basically spent, and I got the bank accounts for that from $750,000 down to under 100,000. I only have the last couple of bank accounts, December, January, were leaked to me. But yeah, so I mean, all this to say, I think my opinion is more valuable than yours is Ralph Nader. I'll write you a letter, though. That's how you like to communicate, right? I'll write you a letter stating that. And then hopefully you can put a correction. That's what we'll do. Because when we do the notes of this book, I'll correct you as dispassionately as possible. And then I'll ask you for a correction and maybe a mention, and you can help me get my brand off the ground. I'll tell you, though, Ralph Nader, when I'm making the Ralph Nader money, alright, I'm not going to have the weird self-hate and complications and guilt that you do about money. There's some interesting psychological shit in here. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. This included many letters to Obama, none of which were answered. In fact, this gave me the idea, since just denigrating us, that's what I don't like. I don't like people that take shots at you without knowing you. You don't know me, Ralph Nader. You don't know the protest movement. You should probably don't speak on what you don't know. Shut the fuck up. That's rude. I was like, I don't know you. I'm joking around. That's why I went personal and talked about the psychology shit. I don't know you, Ralph Nader. And you came and you visited this and that. How many people did you talk to consult about this book? I think I didn't live the core of that history, but I was pretty close to the core, and I documented it. So I guess that's why those emotions came out. They're okay. Emotions are good. All right. This included many letters to Obama, none of which were answered. In fact, this gave me the idea, since I thought others might be interested in my thoughts, even if he wasn't, of publishing these letters in book form. And once they were published, I sent him a letter about it. Here are the contents. I'm interested in reading one of your books. You're like Amy Goodman, but I read like 3 of her books. It's like, once I understand how you promote your brand, I'm done. Because I understand it's just a brand. It's not a coherent set of logical thinking and problem solving. You have things that you like to talk about which fit within your narrative, which promotes the books and the shows and the lifestyle. I like some of the values. I like the consumer advocacy stuff. I'm disappointed. Strong emotions come from disappointment. Letters to a president, return to sender. President Barack Obama, the White House, Pennsylvania Avenue. You know what? I have to check how long this one is. 20 minutes. We're doing good. I think I can stand up for the last 20 minutes. We're going to power through this. It's okay, Shaz. It's like I have to decide to cut off some of those emotional rants, or else. You want to do it this close? We can do it this close if you want. All right. President Barack Obama, the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20500. Dear President Obama, I'm enclosing a copy of Return to Sender, Unanswered Letters to the President, 2001 to 2015, 7 Stories Press, which contains over 100 letters I sent to you and President George W. Bush from 2001 to 2015. They were almost entirely unanswered and unacknowledged. One of these letters asked you about the White House's policies regarding letters it receives. I raised this issue early in your first term with Director of the Office of the President Correspondence, Mike Kelleher, who said there were no specific policy regarding responses, but that he would try to get back to me after the Office of Presidential Correspondence considered the matter. He did not. Citizen correspondence is important, both for you as president and for our nation's citizens. It's like, what are we talking about? We're talking about maybe information matriculation through a system, a bureaucracy. So let's talk about systems management. Let's bring up the latest science. Let's go to corporate logic. And let's say, well, how do these bureaucracies function? Let's modernize but you're so granular, Ralph. You're just talking about the letter and then the people you talk to. You can see why people don't take you seriously. You don't back up to actually address things logically as if you were solving a problem. I guess that's what it is, and that's what these are good for me to get out the emotion and get out the thoughts through brainstorming.
but it really gets in the way. I mean, in a book, I'm shooting the shit while I read the book, but I would not create the arguments that he creates the way he creates them. For presidents, letters help, as you said, escape the bubble. Yeah, but why are you using, we already know he's a bullshitter. Like, once someone lies to you repeatedly, especially, why are you relying on their word anymore? But that's what it is that we can't escape the reservation because you're not courageous enough or creative enough to imagine an alternative. So no matter how much you disagree with the parental figures, the figures of authority, the party figures, you still have to go back to them to reference them and grovel at them. It is not inspiring. Letters from citizens also convey ideas and observations that alert you to conditions, issues, and urgencies at hand, and occasionally provide you with an opportunity to publicly discuss the points raised by an ordinary citizen who penned such a letter. Just the other day, when you were visiting Ohio, a chance question to you from a person in the audience elicited your view that such mandatory voting as exists in a number of other democracies, such as Australia, will be transformative. Those few words alone will stimulate a public discussion in an era of low voter turnout, which might include weighing the pros and cons of having a binding none of the above NOTA option for voters. See, so this is stuff, I could get some of these ideas. I like these ideas. I just don't like, I'm starting to, just now I solidify my opinion of Ralph Nader. I can take the good, leave the bad. I don't have to keep repeating how I think he's a dumbass. Let people's life and track record speak for them. Letters can be very valuable in asking questions that offer you an opportunity to respond to matters or issues not ordinarily addressed by the press corps or officials or members of Congress. Incidentally, the first annual review of the White House press corps and its interactions with you appears in March-April 2015 issue of the Columbia Journalism Review, funded by the Helen Thomas Fund. She would have liked that. Now, Helen Thomas is a lady that is in one of my videos, Political Joints, where I take hip-hop beats and I put them speeches over them. So I have one of Barack Obama addressing the CIA. I think it's the CIA. And it's at the very end. So you have the regular song, William Blum talking about empire, and then Barack Obama defending empire over the same beat. So it's pretty good juxtaposition of, like, I don't think Barack Obama really believes in anything at all. And then you hear Barack Obama saying, the American people are unique, and that's okay, because we're the good guys of history. Just totally whitewashing all of our empire. But at the very end, Helen Thomas, I think this is the one. She says, but you don't speak about the motivations. What are the motivations? Why do they want to do us harm? And you hear his Barack Obama's press secretary saying, it's a complicated issue, and they just Al-Qaeda has the agenda of destruction, and they've taken Islam, they perverted the tenets of Islam. And then Helen Thomas is like, so you're saying it's Islam? It's Islam that, and he's like, no, I'm saying that it's a corrupted Islam. It's like, dude, geopolitically, we are invading them. Well, just historically, whatever context you want, we're going over there and forcing our will upon people, oppressing them. We're oppressing them with military violence. That's why they want to do us harm. And the press secretary cannot say that, because that would be admitting empire. And rule number 1 is you don't talk about Fight Club, apparently. Rule number 1, you don't talk about empire. Rule number 2, you do not talk about empire. So that's funny that he mentions Helen Thomas. He later on, he talks about how bad Barack Obama was with the press, but like, it's so logically disingenuous to lay this much of a case, even though he doesn't really go full-throated, but he does lay a case against Obama and the Democrats, and then, but to say at the very beginning, but, we have to stay on the reservation, folks. We have to, come on. It's like, I mean, you saw it in his title. I saw it in his title. He's just a confused old man. That's all we're allowed to. All we're allowed to have as leaders are confused old men. The occasional confused old woman. There are many other potential benefits of sending letters to the president. For example, during Secretary of Energy Steve Chu's entire 4th-year term, many of the major anti-nuclear power groups could not obtain a meeting with him. Although he had met numerous times with representatives from the nuclear industry, he would not respond to our letters and calls, so he could listen and respond to the empirical positions and recommendations of experienced groups whose overall views he did not share. So this is what I like. It's like, if I take all of Ralph Nader's points and put him down, that's a pretty solid platform, because we share a lot of the same values. Maybe he's just been captured from a life of doing this political activism grind that he actually thinks he's effective. maybe he is effective, and I'm not giving credit to the work that he does. I just intuitively feel like this isn't going to save the world. We need more. So we're going to take the good and leave the bad. So we'll look into that. I understand that you and your staff send courtesy responses to every invitation, to event invitations around the country, and you respond to letters about highly visible issues, such as the auto industry bailout, with form letters. Of course, you also respond to political allies and influence supporters in some fashion, but that still leaves out many letters reflecting the knowledge and positions of many engaged Americans who should neither be stonewalled nor overlooked. Here's what I recommend. This is, if there's like an idea like a 311 for government, why not? Bloomberg did it to great effect in New York. But I also like, that's the thing, is I don't like those people, though Bloomberg or Obama don't have the right values. But yeah, that's not being an ideologue means you can take the good that you see no matter who's presenting it. So this is a good idea. Issue a policy on responding to letters with whatever classification you choose to make, so that people can know what to expect. At the very least, these active citizens should receive an acknowledgement of receipt of their letters and emails. That's what the Prime Minister of Canada does, regardless of whether the letters are supportive or critical. Additionally, the Prime Minister refers letters to the appropriate ministers for further review. Without even an acknowledgement, citizens might become cynical or stop writing. Or stop voting. Maybe we're already there, Ralph. This is a great idea, but we might have already passed this stage. We might already not be buying into our government. That's why the protesters in Occupy Wall Street, we didn't buy into the party systems. We're beyond it. What does Ralph say? What's your fucking title of this book? Why it isn't too late to reverse course. It's too late, Ralph. Trump was elected. It's too late to go back. We can only go forward now. What did he say? He says, people might become cynical. Yeah, thanks for that one, Ralph. In other news, water is wet. Have your staff select the letters with ideas, proposals, or suggestions that they think would contribute to a good annual public report to the American people. See, I just like the idea from a writing standpoint. It'd be cool to get a fucking compilation of all these letters. I look at it as just like it's valuable. It's valuable information, valuable resources. But that's a values thing. This only makes sense if you value democracy. And what did you say about Occupy? That's what bugged me so much. You fucking said we were spending too much time. Yeah. Where are we? I have to mention that. They're tussling with anarchists and hired provocateurs. You just lumped us both in there. There were hired provocateurs there, and there were anarchists there. The anarchist librarians, the ones who set up the library, the ones that I lived with, who I was passing out literature with, they're the most intellectually mature and also the most socially interactive in a mature way. Where anarchists take as the first assumption your autonomy. And character is the ability to love. Anarchists know the most about love in the political field because they exhibit the most character. They respect autonomy. They believe that if their idea is the best idea, then it's going to win out in a conversation of ideas. So they promote, that's why the librarians are mostly anarchists. They promote the distribution of ideas, feeling that the idea of anarchy best represents itself. I didn't meet any other political groups or organizations who are that honest. That's also why I like Zen Buddhism. I like anti-authoritarian traditions because it allows everyone to be on the equal playing field and for the idea to speak for itself. The values. So when you say you throw us in with the anarchists, you're maybe talking about the black bloc, the fucking Antifa, the people who like to be violent. Like anarchism has a meaning and an intellectual tradition beyond the probably cures who hide within its ranks, or the anarchists who feel like they have to do something to defend themselves. That's not what anarchism is. Anarchism is an intellectual tradition with a well-documented history. Came out about the same time as communism and socialism with the same impulses. The interaction between labor and capital, out of the enclosure of the commons and the transference to the modern industrial economy, from the agrarian economy, from feudalism, which was the remnants of imperialism. You see, it's not that complicated. All this shit is very slow moving. It happened over hundreds of years, and now we're just ignoring a lot of history, and we're confusing a lot of people with cherry-picked information. But it's like geology, very slow-moving history with very logical spaces when ideas came out, and then they flourished, and now we're in a whole century of deception with artificial cultures being created to distract people. But they don't withstand scrutiny. Your arguments don't withstand scrutiny. That's why I wanted to go back, just because I remembered you said anarchists and hired provocateurs. Ralph. This is good if I address you directly, Ralph. I think we should do that from now on. Address the author directly. It might take out some of my frustration, but also limit how much I need to be frustrated, because it's a better catharsis. We disdained any discipline, much less paying full-time organizers. No, people wanted to get the Occupy money. We wanted to pay occupiers full-time. But that's the thing, is we didn't want to have, you're supposed to disclose if you were in our movement working for a union or other people, and people weren't doing that. And that's what we hated. Secret infiltrators who were in our movement with ulterior motives, not disclosing those ulterior motives. So we're not serious about anything described as victory. How can you have a right to characterize it? That really bugged me, I guess. I had to go back to it. All right, where are we at? I forgot where I was at. Noda. Letters can be valuable, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, Helen Thomas. That's how I went off. And then, the atomic energy. I read that. Leaves Stonewall overlooked. And that's when we talked about direct democracy, maybe, and stuff. Here's what I recommend. Issue a policy responding to letters. People can know what to expect. Oh, I went all the way to the bottom of the page without even acknowledging we might become cynical. And then I went off about that. All right, Shaz. That was a big one. Have your staff select the letters with ideas, proposals, or suggestions that they think would contribute to the annual public report of the American people. Oh yeah, and I said that that would be interesting on a literary perspective. Include critical letters that point out shortcomings. This has a salutary effect on the bubble and goes beyond the few letters that all presidents use as political props. Are you really trying to reform Barack Obama, though? Because later on, you really dig into him about the war and his drone warfare. Is this how we talk to a person like that? He's demonstrated himself to be a sociopathic level narcissist, on the sense that he'll do whatever it takes regardless of human life or value system. Supposedly a constitutional scholar. Shit all over the Constitution with his actions. This man doesn't believe in anything. Are you really trying to make entities to this person? This is a pure power person. You have to deal with them in those terms. You have to deal with people in the terms with the value systems that they believe. You're being naive right now, Ralph. I'll conclude with an invitation, which you may wish to consider again, that appears in my previous mentioned book. It feels like Ralph would rather die nobly than to effect change. He's picking a hill to fucking die on. On May 4th, why ask people stuff that they're not going to comply with? On May 4th, 2012, I sent you a letter urging you to address a proposed gathering of 1,000 leaders from nonprofit civic community at a hotel ballroom near the White House, at your scheduled convenience. These leaders had diverse groups supporting justice for consumers, workers, small taxpayers, the poor, and other environmental, health, housing, transportation, and energy causes. These organizations represent many millions of Americans across the country who support them with donations and volunteer time. There was no reply when I sent the letter to First Lady Michelle Obama's East Wing. Her staff at least responded, writing that you had no time. Well, what about any time this year? Jimmy Carter addressed such a group of civic leaders after his election in 1976. The event was very successful and helped give greater visibility to this very important civic sector in our society. I found your White House's response to the invitation disingenuous, in as much as you travel across the country and the world directly promoting by name for-profit U.S. companies and jobs these companies create. In India, it was for Boeing aircraft and Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Well, the nonprofit sector employs millions of Americans, and its growth services are good for society, so are they not? I hope you and the family will enjoy perusing this book and possibly gaining some insights and ideas that will enhance your service to our country, its people, and its interactions with the rest of the world. This volume could have been called a bubble buster, except we could only wonder whether these letters were ever given access through that self-described encasement. Sincerely yours, Ralph Nader. All right, this is going to expire, plus I only have 5% more on my phone. and the screen dimmed. That's why it's so dark. It's going to expire in about 30 seconds. We've got some loud people outside anyways. It's a good time to end it. I didn't get to my 50, but I got to 40. It's okay. I'm always more ambitious than the constraints allow. We'll plan for that. So, yeah, Ralph Nader and the funny way in which he gets his point out. He's confused. When it comes down to it, the most subtle way I could disagree with this man is just by acknowledging that there's a lot of confusion in his head, trying to sort it out, take out the values and the principles, and leave him with his confusion.